Hey, everybody, it's Chris. Welcome to the show. Having an issue or two here, but let's do what we can to get this thing on the road. I know what would be fun. Here. Hello, all you patient people. Double salute to all of you. I'm your host, Chris. Welcome to the pros and cons show that I like to call the weekly spinner rack because we look at comics that we picked up on the spinner rack this week. It makes sense, doesn't it? Um, Started just a moment late, having an issue or two with connecting a camera. So I've only got this one webcam tonight. I feel like the resolution isn't fantastic. Let me fiddle here with the settings for just a moment, and then I'd love to greet everybody. Give me just a moment. Ah, yeah, it's saying that I can't go to 1080 for some reason. I'm only in 720, which I don't love doing. I also don't have a second camera here to show you the comics. So I don't know. I'm going to wing it tonight. Once we get to the news, it should be a lot cleaner because I can bring that up as a separate screen. Whatever. At least you can see me, hear me. I'm going to talk about some comics this week. That should be fun. I sound odd. The mic is the same as it always is, so I'm not sure what that sounds. A little tinny. Sounds a little tinny. Okay, hold on. Maybe it didn't connect the right microphone. Give me a moment here. Give me a moment. Yep. Does this sound any better, folks? Let's see. Does this sound any better? Yeah, I know a lot of people telling me that the audio isn't good. Got it, got it. But I think I just switched to the Yeti. That's better. Does everything sound good now to you? Okay, good. Tons better. Okay, good, good, good. Sorry about that. Yeah, just having issues trying to get the show started this time. I was really sort of working on compiling the news and everything to the last minute, and I didn't have time to organize anything to draw today. We had company over for a little while this afternoon, and I didn't think it was backing me up that much, but it did. It did. Yeah, good. Okay. 110% different. I'm sorry that I started on a little bit of a sour note. That's obviously not the show that I want to give you folks. But thank you all for bearing with me as I get started. Hey, Shane, that's the owner of local comic shop that I shop at. Lovely to have you here. Lovely to have everybody here. Look at this. We've got all sorts of people I'll greet. Retro Coop and Meow Nian, Sam Longhorth, Chemdog, Moritaka, Firm Design. Love seeing you all here. It happens, no worries. That's very kind of you. Let me know this, though. I am curious about this. I know I don't have this particular camera in high resolution. I usually am able to use my phone, and it just wasn't connecting today. But is this stream going with less sort of bandwidth hiccups tonight? I'd be curious about that because one thing I am doing differently, obviously, is I'm running less sort of graphics through the computer that I use for the show, and I'm wondering if that's an issue because we are paying for really high bandwidth. Yeah, interesting. Okay, stream is smoother. I'm seeing that. That's interesting. No bandwidth hiccups. Okay, then you know what? Even though I don't have the resolution I quite want tonight, one thing this does tell me, this is good news. I simply need to invest. Now I know for a fact I need to invest in a new computer to run this show. And I was already thinking of getting a new computer to edit comic tropes with. So this is super helpful. Thanks, everybody. Oh, wow. We're starting off with a super chat Pros and cons on Monday nights is always a high note and never a sour note. The stream is super smooth and the mic is great. Good, good, good. Yeah. All right. So got a good stream tonight. That's at least something. So what I'll do, yeah, I guess I'll have to drive down to Oregon where there's no sales tax and get myself a new computer so that I can like sort of edit my show properly and run this stream, like, like get a good graphics card. And maybe I can sort of get I only have a single monitor here, but if I had a dual monitor, I think that would make it a little easier to do my show. And maybe I could even sort of pivot the camera, get like a nice stand and have it like right above where I have my screen. Cause if you see me looking to the side, that's the only place I can have my screen. So I'm like looking at the news and stuff like that. Anyway, hopefully that makes sense. Hey, Daniel, lovely to have you stop by. Daniel's a comic book writer from Sweden. There are several states that have no sales tax. Absolutely, that's a thing. Absolutely, that's a thing. And it's not too far for us to go over the border. So, you can't really do it with, say, a car because you have to register that with your state. But if you're going to get like a single item that's a little pricey, but not necessarily pricey enough that you have to declare, sometimes it makes sense to take a fun trip down to Portland. It's a kind of cool city, got a lot of great comic book shops. Yeah, something kind of cool that you can do. Wow, thank you, RM Cunningham, pitching in for that new computer. I will definitely put it towards that. That is a thing that I need to do. That is a thing I need to do. Yes. Isn't that nice to know, Philip, that Oregon has no sales tax? And just a generous super chat from Samuel. Lovely. Lovely, lovely, lovely. And the sales tax here in Washington, just so you know, it's just a notch under 10%. So it's one of the higher sales taxes in the country, unfortunately. I grew up in Massachusetts and it was always 5%. And I thought that was the way it was everywhere. And then you start traveling to different states and you start doing international travel and you realize taxes are different everywhere you go. And tipping is different everywhere you go. It's really weird to get used to. Yeah, the way let's see, we will never sales tax. We will never pump our own gas. This is the way, right? Some states you are not allowed to pump your own gas. Very strange, very strange. Let's see. Let's get into something I would like to plug for myself real quick before I even get into the news. Coffee. I'm going to be hyped up, folks. You're going to see me talking a mile a minute because I'm having some caffeine tonight. But what do I want to promote? No, hold on. Opening a window I didn't mean to. This is super professional. Let's go to the next page here. And boom. What is that? That is my first comic book cover for like a mainstream publication. It is live, folks. This is just a tiny piece of my cover that I'm doing for Dynamite on an issue of Vampirella. I drew a cover. Obviously, it references my show. I'm talking about Tropes. I put in a bunch. This is the link on Indiegogo. But if you just go to Indiegogo and type in comic tropes or my name, Chris Pierce, things like that, you'll find it right away. Lots and lots of different versions that you can pledge to, a digital cover, the cover itself, a version in just black and white if you just wanted to see my line art. There's also a bunch of other Dynamite things if you wanted to understand Vampirella a little better. They've got some Vampirella stuff. Once you order a cover, there are options for add-ons, and you could add either a Comic Tropes enamel pin or an Infotron plush. So I know a bunch of people have said that they would like to order things like that. This is like right now the best way to do something like that. I'm pretty darned excited about this. It just launched yesterday. This was like where it was in the morning today when I looked at it. I feel like that's decent, but personally, I would love to bump those numbers up a lot higher. So I hope you will strongly consider supporting this endeavor for me. It would mean a lot to me if we could really do a good job on this. I think I just missed a super chat. I don't want to miss that. Mian mentioning early. Leiji Matsumoto. That will be a piece of the news. A very influential manga and anime creator. I will discuss Leiji's legacy. But Meow Nian says, I watched Adieu Galaxy Express when I was 8 or so, also known as Galaxy Express 999 or 39. It's pronounced different ways. Watched it on Space Channel, Canada's Sci-Fi. Yep. And Harlock. And of course, Space Battleship Yamato. That was one around here. Thank you for that, though. Also, looks like I've got a super chat here from Dr. Shoebill that I would love to acknowledge. You've mentioned being a Louisiana resident before, so happy Lundy. Yep. And Mardi Gras to you. Here's 5 towards your new computer. Thank you. I did. I lived in New Orleans. I love Mardi Gras. It's total bacchanalia, but the parades are fantastic. The floats are exquisite. If you don't know what I'm talking about, just go to YouTube, look up Mardi Gras parades. The floats are incredible. There's music, there's throws, basically like treats and beads and stuff like that. And I always remember Mardi Gras with my coworkers at any job I've had. I thought ahead this year and I ordered 2 king cakes. That's a Mardi Gras cake from New Orleans. Got them today, bringing them into work tomorrow. Excited to share that with people. Let's see. Are you coloring your own cover, Chris? No. Thank you, EJ, for asking. And lovely to have you here. But somebody that you and I both know colored it, Mark Englert. If you guys aren't familiar, Mark Englert has definitely drawn a bunch of comics. He currently colors a bunch of comics, and he makes a lot of prints. In terms of things he's colored, just so you know, like this is the guy that Heavy Metal Magazine a few years back got the rights to print the only unpublished Jack Kirby comic book pages that were still in existence. Something called Lords of Light. If you've ever seen the movie Argo, he was hired to sort of design Lords of Light into an idea for a movie, but he made a bunch of comic book pages. Oh, thank you, Spider-Phil. That's appreciated. Thank you so much. Yay! My buddy Hoodie Coco. He has a lovely, I know I'm all over the place. It's the caffeine. Hooded Cobra Commander is my good friend. He's got an excellent YouTube channel about vintage G.I. Joe. I love it. I love it. And obviously he was recently cameoing on my show. Thank you, buddy. Thank you, buddy. Where did I leave off? Mark Englert. Mark Englert was hired to color the Jack Kirby pages for Lords of Light. That's a pretty huge deal, in my opinion. He's made prints, official prints for companies like, Disney, for Universal. He had a really famous one for Jurassic Park that ended up getting used on actual Barbasol aerosol cans because it was so good. They were like, we got to put this on these cans. He's done like posters for artists like Weird Al and stuff. He's incredible. He's currently doing prints for the upcoming comic book No One by Kyle Higgins, the guy that does Radiant Black. Mark Englert's incredible. Good friend. I was really lucky to get him to color my cover. Really, really awesome. Thank you, EJ. Thank you. Yeah, thanks for asking, Andrew. I did cameo in a Spider-Man fan film. What they're doing is they took the everything that was out there for the script and storyboards for Spider-Man 4 when Sam Raimi was going to make it, and they're making it. The latest update I saw from those guys is they're about 60% filmed. This is done in between their work and daily lives. They think maybe finish filming by the end of this year, finish editing sometime next year. I think that's pretty exciting. But yes, I've got a cameo. I'll definitely talk about it soon. Wow, you guys are being generous. I haven't even gotten to the news and reviews yet, but Cantress says, evening, Chris. Hope you're doing all right. Doing better with you guys. Sincerely. Just finished illustrating the final page of my 3rd comic before tuning in. Congratulations. What an accomplishment. You were one of the first people to ever send me a comic that they made. So that's awesome, Gantris. Thank you. Yes, Dynamite approached me for this cover. If you guys have been watching my live streams for any amount of time, you'll see that the president of Dynamite, Nick Barucci, would sometimes drop in to my live streams, and he's been very kind to me, and he gave me this great opportunity. So I'm pretty excited. Let's see. Hello from Scotland. Ahoy. Just wanted to ask if you have ever heard of the Scottish comic The Beano. Not only have I heard of it, I'm far from an expert. I haven't read a lot of it, but an artist once drew me into their comic strip in The Beano. So I have actually appeared in an issue of The Beano. So that's kind of cool, right? Tell you what. Let's take a moment to stop talking about my comic cover. We'll come back to that. And we'll talk about some comics that came out this week. And I'm going to do it pretty quick this time since I don't have a second camera. It's not going to look good. So I'm just going to show you what I've picked up. First of all, Spider-Man, issue 5. This is by Dan Slott and Mark Bagley. This continues sort of their second Spider-Verse arc. I like this issue. What it does is it gives us basically an alternative version of Spider-Man's story where he does not get bitten by the spider. Everything else still happens. For instance, Cindy Moon, who becomes Silk, gets bitten. Peter Parker ends up saving his Uncle Ben's life because he happened to be at home when that burglar came in. Peter got shot and he sort of gets, seriously injured. But Flash Thompson, who used to bully him, is really impressed by Peter's heroism. That makes sense since Flash was always so impressed with Spider-Man. And Peter ends up growing up with a lot more friends in high school and college, and he ends up becoming basically Cindy Moon's gadget inventor. It's a beautiful alternate history of what would happen to Spider-Man if he didn't have Spider-Man's powers. He'd still be a hero. And it ends tying into like sort of the multiverse saga with this weird thing like dimensionally just appearing in his science lab saying help. So Peter Parker's still out there somewhere. But as a standalone issue, this tells a really fun, it's like a what if, but a really fun what if, a positive what if. Peter Parker, if he didn't become Spider-Man, this shows that he would still be a hero, not on the same scale, but in a much more intimate way. And it's happy. It's nice. 8 Billion Genies, I've talked up many times. This is a fantastic story where everybody in the world gets a genie. And now we're jumping forward about 80 years into this world where the remaining people that have wishes are using them to protect their communities against each other. There's a lot of people that have been, but also people are paralyzed into not wanting to use their wish because they haven't used it yet. And now they can't think of the perfect wish. It's sad because we start losing some of the characters that we started this journey with. These people that look like older are people that we started the book with. But it's a fascinating idea of what would you do if you could change one thing in the world, and would it really make your life better? Would it make the world better? It seems like in 99% of the cases, no, it does not make the world better, but it certainly makes it weird, and it focuses on what do you want? That's an interesting question. What do you want? Any good story will ultimately, you'd be able to say, what does the protagonist want? And you'd be able to get to something relatable. They want respect or they want safety, something like that. It's really good. It's really good. This is issue 7 of 8, so it's almost done. The first 6 issues are available in a trade paperback if you want to start catching up. It's really interesting. There's a lot of thought put into world building in this. A lot of thought. It doesn't have anything that feels like it was forgotten or not addressed. It's good. I need to look this up, but Nightclub is Mark Millar's current vampire superhero book. 3 17-year-olds get vampire powers and decide to become superheroes, which kind of makes sense. You know, they're still themselves. They just are vampires. $1.99. See that price? This is issue 3. I'm really curious if his experiment in making a very affordable comic here is working. I don't know. I don't know how many retailers are ordering it because I don't know what the profit margins on something like that would be. It certainly made it very easy for me to decide, yeah, I'm going to pick it up. And I like this story. It's not as dark as a lot of things that Millar does, which I'll get to in a minute with his other book that came out this week, Nemesis. It's dark, but it isn't totally nihilistic. It's an interesting idea, you know, teenagers becoming superheroes because they have vampire powers. Let's see, Owen's reviews. Does that mean you review comics, Owen? Feel free to plug it. Oh, good point, Uros. Maybe it's more like the first 4 issues are the trade paperback. I can't quite remember. Yeah, you guys are right. I thought that there was a trade, but maybe it's 4 issues, not 6. That doesn't make sense. Oh, okay. Owen corrected me. There's not a trade. I've been picking it up monthly. For some reason, I was convinced. You know what it is? I know why I'm confused. 8 Billion Genies has been selling very well, and they've put out a lot of reprints. So the stuff I've been seeing on the shelves has to just be a different cover for the reprints. And I guess I let myself think that that was a trade paperback, but that makes sense. I'm wrong. I made a mistake. I'm sorry. Thank you, Solstice. That's very kind of you. That's very kind. I'll consider reviewing comics now that you mention it. Okay. I've been enjoying this series. Yeah, Nightclub is good. I love the idea of an affordable comic. For $1.99, I'd read a lot of comics these days that I wouldn't otherwise pick up for like $5. I'm just saying, I'd give it a shot very easily. Am I allowed to make mistakes? I'm pretty sure that this is the first time I've ever done it. So, you know, we're going into unprecedented territory here. We're going into unprecedented territory. Whatever happened to the old comic tropes board with the questionable panels like that one with the Ultimate Warrior and Santa? It folds in half and it's behind the bookshelf of comics that you see on my current comic tropes set, but I don't really have much of a use for it. I'm probably going to have to turn it into kindling one day. They sure do add up quickly with $4.99. Yep. But what can I say? I love comics. I'll pay. Hey, here's a book that's under a lot of people's radar that I think is fantastic. Murder World. It's a book where Arcade is almost the main character as the supervillain. And it turns out that he has a secret contest every year with 200 contestants and only one person can survive. So it's a little bit like, just to be clear, and I've mentioned this before, it's a little bit like Squid Game, which pretty much everybody has seen now. But there's like proof that writers Jim Zub and Ray Fox pitched this before Squid Game ever came out. So, yes, the comic is coming out after that, but they did have the idea first, and it's cool. There are currently 4 contestants left. Each one of these, by the way, it says Murder World, and then they'll have one superhero's name, which probably is helping just sincerely with the marketing. There's been Wolverine, Spider-Man, Avengers. This one's Moon Knight. But it's not that, just to be clear, that's not the actual superhero in this book. It's always one of Arcade's robots, sort of a life model decoy. The people that are left include an MMA fighter, a guy who we don't really know who he is, but like, you know, also seems to be a professional fighter, a woman who is secretly a Hydra agent trying to infiltrate and take down Arcade's empire. And oh no, that's her. I don't know who this person's supposed to be in this. And then there's a non-powered supervillain, the guy who was the original Leapfrog, Vincent Patillo. There's my sister backing me up. He's never made a mistake. I, on the other hand, made all the mistakes. There you go. Thank you. I get what you're saying there, Kyle. In terms of putting it in order, having every issue be number one and like having a superhero name, not great. But look, it's a great book is all I can say. It's sincerely entertaining because you get close to several characters that don't make it. But Arcade is a very crafty villain. This makes him very interesting. I love this book, actually. I really recommend it. I really do. Do I like Seth, Chester Brown, or Concrete? Yeah, all of them to some degree, especially Concrete, though. Especially Concrete. Concrete's a great comic. I should do an episode about it sometime. I think the last thing that Arcade was used on that was like pretty big was I think it was called Avengers, not Avengers Academy, Avengers Arena. Avengers Arena. And he abducts all these Avengers Academy students, like these teenagers, and a lot of them get axed. A lot of them. But you've also got some pretty notable characters like X-23, Darkhawk, somebody from like the Bloodstone line, like Ulysses and Elsa. It's really cool. I should see the price of the Boston Herald. Yeah, what does a newspaper cost these days, actually? Somebody out there tell me, because I have not bought a physical newspaper in ages. I bet that they cost a fortune. Yeah, I'll cover Paul Chadwick at some point. Paul Chadwick would be a good topic. More people should know about him. He does good work on Concrete. Here's another Mark Millar book. Miller. Sorry. I always want to say Millar, but I guess it is pronounced Miller. Nemesis. Basically a reboot of his original version of Nemesis. This issue gives us an origin for him. I don't love it. This is dark. It's about this supervillain, calls himself Nemesis, hates cops, almost has an opposite origin of Batman, where his parents were criminals that got captured, arrested, and eventually, executed by the legal system. And so he hates cops. But he's just so perfect. He can't lose. He's always planned ahead like Batman. And so it doesn't feel very fair. It feels like the heroes never really have a chance to upset him, because every time they do something clever, he's like, but I anticipated that. So I don't love it. A sale, $1 for 6 months. Well, that's actually hardly anything. That's hardly anything. Do you not like dark stories, or is it just dark for dark's sake? The latter. Dark stories are great. I love horror. I love crime comics. Totally fine with dark stories. Totally fine. I just don't like it when it feels like the goal wasn't to tell a story so much as, let's see how dark we can make this, or let's see how edgy we can make this. If I get that feeling, and it might not be accurate, but if I feel that as the reader, to me, that's real. And I don't love that. I don't love style over substance. Style is awesome, but not when it's at the excuse of a good story. I just don't feel like it's fair. Exactly. Like, what's darker than Berserk? But Berserk has meaning to its darkness. Like, anything bad you can think of happens to the main character, Guts. But boy, is he a fascinating character. And the fact that he just doesn't give up makes him kind of the perfect anti-hero. Fantastic Four, I picked up on a whim because it had a new creative team. Writer Ryan North, artist Iban Coelho. This is a good take. It's such a... how would I describe this take on Fantastic Four? It emphasizes the family, and it makes all of them likable. It doesn't make Reed too distant just because he's a genius. He clearly loves and cares about his family. But the Fantastic Four in issue 1 had like split up over something. And this issue reveals what it is. I won't spoil it for you if you haven't read it. But basically, the Fantastic Four is having one of its sort of traditional battles against something huge and cosmic. In this case, the Negative Zone is invading, okay? Annihilus's minions and stuff. So much so that Reed has to do something drastic to take out this army. And in so doing, oh boy, I don't want to spoil it, but it's not a sacrifice. Like, nobody dies, but some bad stuff happens to a lot of people, both like extended family members of the Fantastic Four and some citizens of New York. And it really turns people against the Fantastic Four. And the Fantastic Four, except for Sue, it kind of turns them against Reed. But people aren't looking at it from his point of view. He had to make a really quick decision to save as many lives as possible. But it's tough, and it makes sense, and it fractures the group. This issue, which is issue 4, good timing, and I'm sure that's intentional, is them starting to come back together, and they're going to start fixing things. Yes, thank you for backing me up on this. Love, love, love this Fantastic Four issue. It has been so much fun. Yes. Reed started crying, and I felt that. Absolutely. It's a good take on the material, and it's not like referring to like really dense continuity or anything. It's a great jumping on point. I like it. I like this take on it where they're explorers and they're a family, and it's as simple as that. And each issue so far has told a one and done story. It's going to let us get to know these characters again and build some stakes because we care about them before we get into like whatever the next big epic adventure is for them. The big next cosmic adventure. It's really good. Yeah, I haven't really followed Ryan North's career too closely, but that is nice to see him making this progress. The Dead Lucky I'm picking up because it's set in the Massiverse, and I love Radiant Black, and I've enjoyed most of the rest of that. I like but don't love this comic. This is the final issue of this story arc, issue 6, and the only cool thing about it is that the hero has been basically fighting against a corporation who's taking over the police in San Francisco. It's kind of the RoboCop story, if you've ever seen that, where OCP is taking over Detroit. And all that's cool about it is, against overwhelming odds, the hero essentially gives up and agrees to start working for them. But I think that the idea is, should the story continue, they plan to take the organization down from inside. That's a cool pivot point. That's a good pivot point. It's decent. I don't love it. Hey, congratulations. Making it into the letters column is very, very fun. Manga do sort of got that out. I don't know about American comics, but couldn't he just make his hand into a mallet or something and beat the bad guy, or make his body into a parachute to save all the citizens? Easy solutions. But it's not against one villain. It's against an entire army of about 1,500 monsters. So even though the Fantastic Four is really powerful, they really can't just easily defeat these people. They have to get rid of them somehow. It makes sense within the issue. It makes sense. Also, Ryan North has been giving us slightly different ways of looking at the Fantastic Four's powers. I like that. Let me give you 2 quick examples. But I like him thinking of new ways to utilize powers. Okay, so Invisible Woman can make invisible fields. It basically has to do with the electromagnetic spectrum. And in this, she comes against this wall that kind of looks like the Thing, I know, but it's not the Thing. And she senses electromagnetic fluctuations of a certain kind within that. It makes sense that she could sort of sense that. And then Reed Mr. Fantastic uses his stretchy powers in admittedly a little bit of a creepy way, but I kind of like it. He which page is it? Here. Do you see that at the bottom? He's stretching out his eyeball and pushing it up against something to look at something microscopically. He can stretch. It's something different that I like that he's trying to think of new ways for these powers to be used when the Fantastic Four has been around for what, like over 60 years now. That's cool. That's really cool. Yeah, the negative zone should really focus on that. I got to keep moving because we've got a lot of news today. Final issue of Batman Beyond the White Knight. It unites the whole Batman family. The art in this is incredible, and I want to point one really cool thing out here, okay? Boy, can Sean Murphy draw vehicles like nobody else can. In this one, you see a Batwing carrying a Batmobile that looks very much like the Batman 1989 series, but the wheels are up and it like is dropped onto the ocean and it works like a boat, okay? Like right there. It's the Batmobile, but it's working as a boat. And let me show you this. This is cool. It goes off of a ramp onto the ground and like flips around just some of its components to become a car. That's fun. That's fun. This ends with the heroes doing heroic, clever things against the adversary. And it hints at even more that's going to take place in this Sean Murphy version of the Batman world. It hints at Superman and other heroes existing. So that's the next place we're going to explore. And in fact, he always writes something about what he's doing. Sean Murphy does. And he says that we're going to get into the next thing will be Batman White Knight World's Finest. And we're going to explore some of the other Justice League heroes as he reinterprets them in this world. Fun. Very fun. Look at that. Oh, hi. Hi, Steve. Black Phoenix, always nice to have you here. Thank you very, very much. I didn't love Curse of the White Knight, the sequel series. I love the art, but I didn't love the story too much. It was like a reinterpretation of Azrael. It was fine. It wasn't bad. I just didn't love it like I loved the original White Knight. But Beyond the White Knight is really good. It's a return to form. It's really good. Is Jack still cured of being the Joker in that? Well, you have to read these. They go in an interesting, different direction than either live or die. Oh, yeah. I'm looking forward to seeing what he does with Zorro, too. What's my favorite Batmobile that I drive? The easiest one to drive around would be the 66, because I could like actually park that thing. But in terms of the one that looks the most fun to drive, I'd say the Tumbler from the Christopher Nolan trilogy. I like the Tumbler. I think it's cool. But if I wanted something that I could actually drive around town and park, it'd have to be the 66. All right, let's see. I've got 1, 2, 3, 4 comics to quickly mention. Hidden Empire is kind of cool. It involves Kira from the Han Solo movie, trying to take down the Emperor and Darth Vader. And she uses some mercenaries in this that have some clever ways of fighting Darth Vader. And they are not entirely successful. It successfully builds up Darth Vader again as a very dangerous threat. I think the comics have done a very good job of making Darth Vader seem like a threat. Highly recommend Danger Street, folks. Tom King and is it Jorge Fornes? Let me double check. Yes, Jorge Fornes. 13 different characters in this story from very different parts of the DC universe. The dingbats of Danger Street are just like, kid hoodlums. But it also has who else? Who has Lady Cop and makes her cool. I did an episode about her issue. It has the new gods in it. It has the creeper in it. The creeper. It has Metamorpho in it. It has Warlord and the original Starman, the alien Starman in it. Totally bonkers coming together with all of these over a murder mystery. It's an interesting mystery, and it deals with wildly diverse characters, and kind of special that it can make them feel like it fits together. What a unique book. Really, really cool. Green Team, exactly, Sam Longworth. Yeah. Any odd man? No odd man in it. House of Slaughter is okay. It deals with character from a previous version. This is a spin-off anthology title set in the world of Something is Killing the Children. If you love Something is Killing the Children, you'll like learning more about, like, you know, the houses and stuff that hunt monsters, but kind of deep in the weeds there. Yo, I was so excited to see this return. Swamp Thing Green Hell. Swamp Thing Green Hell. This is by Jeff Lemire and Doug Monkey, two creators I really, really love. As you can see, this is oversized. Let me just show you. I'm going to sneeze. I'm going to sneeze. Thank you. This is a regular comic size, and like it's printed oversized. Part of the Black Label, DC Black Label. Issue 1 came out like about a year ago. And then like we never heard about the rest of the issues. It's like, what's going on? Apparently it was just that Doug Monkey, the illustrator, was dealing with some personal like family stuff. None of my business exactly what that was, but they're back. And what is this book? Set in the somewhat near future, the world has gone to hell. Just environmental collapse, okay? An elderly John Constantine is trying to fix things. The villains are an idea from Swamp Thing. In Swamp Thing, there's said to be a parliament of trees, right? And basically that's the green. There's also the the black, which represents death, and the red, which represents all animals. Okay, there's these sort of elemental forces that have like an intelligence behind them. The green, the black, and the red have all decided they want to wipe out humanity because it's ruining the world. They're going to like, just wipe it out. Against this, John Constantine brings Swamp Thing from like the present day into the future, and he fights sort of an evil Swamp Thing that the three elemental forces have put together. And I'll tell you, nobody can draw monsters and stuff like that like Doug Monkey. It's so cool to see him back and drawing this stuff. It's so cool to have this back. I love it. It's just fun. Lots of double page spreads too. Let me show you, like when it's printed oversized like this and then it has a double page spread, boy, does that feel epic. From out of the sea, all these like monsters are coming. That's cool looking to me. And he didn't feel the need to like, like he left some negative space to like really make it look like they're coming out of the ocean and not like you're in super close and looking at just one or two monsters. So this is issue 2. Boy, did I like it. Boy, did I like it. Yes, old man Constantine, still a bastard and knows it. Thank you, Adavoida. I appreciate that. Just doing sort of a fun one that like connects with the movie that was out, but I didn't feel like doing a I didn't feel like there was enough meat on the bone to really say like this character came from this issue, etc. Like, yes, some of the characters in Ant-Man and Quantumania came from like obscure issues of like, the Hulk or something. Talking about how MODOK compares, it didn't interest me that much. Instead, I was just like, let's just talk about Kang. Interesting villain. Quantumania, yay or nay? I enjoyed it. Now, will I call it top tier MCU stuff? No. No, I won't. But I'd put it somewhere in the middle. I'd say that I liked it more than movies like Iron Man 2, Thor 2, Eternals, which I still find watchable. I'd call it more entertaining than that. I think that the critics and the audiences are very different places on this one, and I'm with the audiences. I thought it was still pretty darn fun. I really did. I thought it was cool. It wasn't perfect, and the complaints about special effects in the MCU, yeah, they could have done better on a couple things, but I had fun. I really did. I look forward to watching it again. You know what? It's a very different MODOK in some ways than the version from the comics. But within the movies, A, it makes sense, and B, it was both a threat and occasionally very, very funny. Like very, very funny. And not just at the expense of how MODOK looks. It was like legit some character-based humor out of MODOK. I liked MODOK, so it worked. It worked for me. Is Quantumania necessary to understand Loki season 2? I would think no. I don't think it would be necessary now. In fact, I'm going to talk about some news, and Kevin Feige sort of addresses how much of like Marvel stuff you need to watch to enjoy stuff. So let me switch over to the news. Again, I'd love it if you would consider supporting my cover. You know, you don't want to like compare yourself to like people that just do crowdfunding stuff because they're not always my favorite creators, but there are a bunch of people that do crowdfunding and have pretty successful campaigns. There's no denying that. I hope that this can do decently. I hope so. I really hope so. I think it's a fun cover. I think that there's some cool add-ons. Like I say, if you've ever wanted an Infotron plush or a Comic Tropes official like enamel pin, this is the place to get it. But let's move forward from that to talking about some of the news. And I'll start with some DC news, starting with a new name for Shazam. I'm trying to center this. Love this artwork, by the way. Dan Mora is a great choice for Shazam. It's going to be written by Mark Waid. I think that that's a good team. Let me acknowledge this. 234% funded as of that screen grab. We had a very modest goal to be successful, but yes, like it was funded before I even woke up on the first day that it launched, so that's nice. But I wanted to go a lot further. I ordered the Virgin cover and the 1-5 set. Good, you'll be able to read the whole story. Thank you so much for the support. Yeah, Mora made Santa Claus look cool. I've just started reading the book he did with is it Kieran Gillen? Once in Future? Once in Future is good. Anyway, what are they going to call Shazam? They haven't been calling him Captain Marvel for a long time because Marvel owns the name Captain Marvel. But here's the thing. I understand putting Shazam on the cover. I'm pretty sure you'd legally still be allowed to call him Captain Marvel within the pages. It's very awkward that they haven't really had a name for him in a while because he can't call himself Shazam. When he says Shazam, that turns him back and forth from Billy Batson to his superhero self. Well, apparently, Waid says people will now just call him the Captain. The Captain is better than nothing. The Captain is better than Shazam as a name, but I feel like just call him Captain Marvel. I'm sure you can. I'm sure you can. I don't know. I don't love it. Captain Thunder, yeah. Call the comic the Big Red Cheese. I don't mind them calling it Shazam. That's a fine, recognizable title. That makes sense to me. But call him Captain Marvel. They can't use it as a trademark. Yeah, they can't do it as the cover dress. Totally get that. Pretty sure they can still call him Captain Marvel inside. Pretty sure. Pretty sure. That's an awful name. Captain Sparkle Fingers. Um, it just they're not going to call him Captain DC. No. If anything, maybe shouldn't they call him like Captain Whiz or something like that, you know? For after or Captain Beck, Captain Binder, I don't know. Captain Batson. Call him Marvel Man. Yeah. Marvel's using Miracle Man. Call him Marvel Man. I don't know. They should change it to Captain Timely. That Captain Atlas, Captain Timely. Just take one of the Marvel names that they're not using anymore. Yeah, Admiral Marvel. Give him a promotion, right? Rear Admiral. We'll promote him all the way to Rear Admiral. Rear Admiral Marvel here, reporting for duty. What kind of duty? Superheroing. What are you thinking of? Nothing, Rear Admiral. Rizzard the Wizard. These are good names. See, a little bit of back and forth with some comic book fans and professionals and readers and stuff, and we can come up with a better name than just the Captain. Captain Excelsior. There you go. Captain James Gunn, maybe. I liked Shazam. He was called Captain Marvel in Batman and Superman Public Enemies. Exactly. You got to call him something. Something. Marvel wouldn't have picked up the rights to Captain Marvel name if DC didn't sue Fawcett Comics out of business. Captain Fawcett. Maybe that's not the most exciting one. I don't know. Yeah. So you guys have some really good names. Captain Picard. That one might be taken. General Hero. Captain. That works. Captain M. Too close to Captain N, the Game Master. Commodore Marvel. That's what give him a promotion. Again, I do think it's a good creative team. I'm actually looking forward to this version of Shazam. Mark Waid does good classic superhero stuff. Dan Mora has like a nice, fun, detailed, but still clean and open line art style that I think suits Captain Marvel. I just don't know. I really think that they could call him Captain Marvel inside, and that they might as well. You've got the history behind it. You've got the history. Chief Petty Officer Marvel. Uh-oh. Getting a demotion. Private Marvel reporting for duty. Call him the Brigadier. We'll move on to the next piece of news. This is also DC news. Let me bring that up. And I think this is interesting to at least look at here. Let me get this out of the way. Look at that. The designer of a bunch of the Batman suits from The Flash talked about them. We'll talk about that in a minute, but take a look at this image. That's in the Flash trailer. We get to see a glimpse at various Batman suits in the Batcave. And, a bunch of them do look a lot like the typical sort of Batman suit from the first few movies. Over here, though, if you look closely, it looks like there's guns in chest holsters. I've been told that those are actually grappling hooks, not guns. We've got a version over here that has goggles, kind of look, and a hood even. So, like, I don't know, maybe some sort of a desert mission. We've got a version here with, like, a reinforced sort of armor around the neck and some metallic wings. Kind of reminds me of Kingdom Come Batman. But let me move forward just to share with you what the designer talked about. He tweeted this. Chris Weston. I think I can mention this now. I was in the costume department on The Flash and got the privilege to work on Michael Keaton's Batsuits, including these variants. I specifically asked if I could do a gray suit because I'm a sad old fanboy too. So we can't really tell here very well, but I guess there is a color scheme that's like the classic gray and blue, or maybe gray and purple. I don't know. He also said the Batman 66 symbol. One of these, I guess, has the Batman 66 symbol. My idea, as was the grappling guns in holsters for the and the Golden Age ears on the cowl. I was in fanboy heaven. Luckily, I had a great lead designer, Alexandra Byrne, who was very receptive to my wacky notions. So I'll go back there. And Yes, this version. Second one over from the left has the Golden Age pointy ears that are just sort of boop, sticking out like that. Kind of cool. Kind of cool that he was able to go a little bit nuts with his creations on that. I like it. Will Batman be able to move his neck, though? With CGI, you can do anything you can imagine. With CGI, Michael Keaton will be able to move his neck. It is interesting that, we've got Michael Keaton coming back. That's pretty cool. Chris Weston is a pretty amazing artist, very Bolland-esque. I love Brian Bolland, so that's cool to know. Yeah, we demand the short purple gloves, exactly. And I agree with you. Like, what fun that would be to design bat suits, because you've got so much material you can pull from, and then like come up with a movie version. They keep calling him like the Michael Keaton version of Batman, or just Batman. I haven't heard anybody say that it's Bruce Wayne. In the Flash movie, here's the question: is Michael Keaton playing an older Bruce Wayne from his movie series, a multiverse thing? Or is he from a changed timeline and he's Thomas Wayne, like in the Flashpoint comics? I sincerely don't know. There are reasons both for and against these things. For instance, to say he's Thomas Wayne, well, we literally saw a different actor play Thomas Wayne in the Snyderverse continuity. So that doesn't quite make sense, actually. But the comics, it was Thomas Wayne that became Batman. So I don't know. Let's see. Hadn't thought of the idea of him being Thomas Wayne. See, I look at, I don't know. Supergirl is clearly imprisoned in it, which was Superman's story in Flashpoint, the comics. Also, there are two Barry Allens in this, right? Well, one of them is wearing yellow all the time. Is this a new version of Yellow Flash? Is like basically an alternate Barry Allen, Reverse Flash, his classic enemy? That there's no indication of that, but that would make a lot more sense to me, that Reverse Flash is the enemy as compared to General Zod. We've got a guest star, folks. We've got Lily. Mwah. Mwah. Lily. Sorry, I love my cats. You're my friend. You want to play? Go get your brother? I love my cat. Kitty, exactly. Yeah, Batman's dad is also the father of the Winchester brothers, and in comic book terms, he's Negan. Let's see. Presumably, this alternate Barry is Dark Flash, as I was calling him, Reverse Flash, and will get an armor made of the material of the Kryptonian spaceships. I don't know. Yes, I'm Kitty. I am Catman, I mean. I am Kitty. Oh, exactly. He was also the comedian. He's got some good comic book credentials there, doesn't he? I was hoping they'd use the CW Flash and make Ezra the Reverse Flash. Yeah. But I think of it at this point, like Grant Gustin has done a fine job playing Barry Allen, the Flash, on TV. Even as like, the writers sort of like, maybe didn't take the show in great directions. He's done a great job playing that character. But he's played that character for 9 years. Do you think he really wants to sign up to like maybe play him for another 9 or 10 in movies? I think even if it paid well, he's probably ready to move on from that. Yes, played him in Supernatural. Nick, lovely to have you here. Hey, everybody, it's Nick. Nick's the guy that gave me the opportunity to, again, let me plug myself here. I'm going to scroll back and pull this up. Nick gave me the opportunity to do this. So if anybody here wants to support it, maybe you could take 2 seconds to thank Nick for making that happen, because it's a pretty nice opportunity for me to potentially reach some new people, and maybe for some of my viewers to discover Vampirella or other things. But anyway, nice to have you here. And I'll plug myself at the drop of a hat. And I need to. So bear with me as I'm going to be in full-on promotion mode for the next month. I'm going to be talking about it a lot. Yeah, that's nice. Thank you, people. Look at that. Thanks, Nick. Thank you. Great choice. Flawless choice. Hi, Dr. Nick. Look at that. And if we're not going to call him doctor, maybe give him a colonel or something. Or he can be the new captain. Captain Barucci. Give this man a job, Nick. He possesses pictures of his good friend Spider-Man. Yes. I've got plenty of photos of my good friend Spidey in the back. Can't wait for the cover. Thank you. Anything for a gorilla cover. Can't figure out how to add the plushie. Once you order a cover, there should be options for add-ons, and it's in there. Okay. Anyway, let's go back to some more news. But thank you everybody for being kind to Nick, and thank you, Nick, again for the opportunity. As long as we're talking about DC adaptations and stuff, I just had a small bit of a Constantine 2 movie update. And I am calling him Constantine because that's what he was called in the movie and in most adaptations, even though he should be pronounced Constantine, according to Alan Moore. Anyway, writer Akiva Goldsman was interviewed by, I believe it was Deadline. He's the guy that wrote the first Constantine movie, and he said that he's currently writing the script for the second movie, so that it is definitely happening. Here's a quote from him. He said, "The new film expands on the themes the original brought about maintaining the barrier between Earth and the evil creatures that are on the other side." So yeah, Keanu Reeves coming back, Akiva Goldsman coming back, and the director, whose name I'm sorry I forget, all coming back. So that's kind of exciting. Again, I think I've said this before. A lot of people have. Keanu Reeves is absolutely not the Constantine that we see in the comics, but the story in that movie is very accurate. I felt like, he was written in a very accurate way in terms of how he uses magic, how he treats others, his self-destructive nature and why it's there. I thought that there was a lot to like about that as a standalone movie. And now that we've all are used to things like the multiverse and other adaptations, I don't know. I like it. I want to see another one. Let's see. Yeah, I'm very interested in seeing Constantine 2, as Keanu has been trying to get this to happen for 18 years now. And, you got to remember, Keanu Reeves, he's older now, but those John Wick movies really raised his star. He was doing a lot of movies that you have never heard of in between, something like Constantine 2 and John Wick, a lot. But I like Keanu. I would say that Keanu is somebody that has a somewhat limited range, but he's very good within that range. He's very good within that range. And he's better when he has more time to prepare for his roles. I believe that, I love the Francis Ford Coppola Dracula movie. Keanu Reeves, his accent in there, not so good, because he's supposed to be an English guy. Sounds like a California surfer to me. But that's nitpicking. I still enjoy that movie, and I still respect Keanu Reeves. And by the way, he seems like a good person, in my opinion. He's got this comic, out, Berserker. Every time Keanu Reeves does an interview for Berserker, I've always seen him mention all of the people that work on the title. He does not just try to take the credit for himself or just promote the book. He always mentions, Matt Kent and is it Ron Garney that draws it? I'm blanking, but it's not my book to promote. He's very kind, I think. All right, that's enough washing Keanu Reeves's car. Let's move on to some more news. Here's some more DC news, but this one was a little bonkers to me until I started thinking about it. Come on, there we go. Joker 2 is filming right now. Here's a scene of Lady Gaga as Harley Quinn, apparently. There was a complaint filed with the Screen Actors Guild that the extras in a scene here were not allowed any, bear with me, any bathroom breaks for over 2 hours. You're supposed to be. You're supposed to be. And there's a lot of comments. This does come through TMZ, but TMZ had a lot of extras, like with quotes saying that, like, that they were not treated well. They were like, like called whiners, that like they weren't easily given water or anything. And at first you're like, well, this is coming through TMZ. But then I remembered it sounded familiar and I looked it up, and yeah, that happened on the first Joker movie too. There were extras that said that they were on the subway train for over 3 hours and weren't allowed to go to the bathroom during that time, and that they had to like pee out the door on the train tracks. And so I'm like, wow, maybe director Todd Phillips needs to treat these extras a little better. Thank you for noticing the bathroom pun. Oh my gosh, it's Lady Gaga. Clayface quote from the Harley Quinn animated series. That's a pretty good series, by the way. The Harley Quinn series on HBO definitely reminds me of the interpretation of Harley Quinn by Amanda Conner and Jimmy Palmiotti, who I think came up with the best comic book version of Harley Quinn. Yeah. Anyway, just sort of weird, right? Let's see. What the hell? Has it been explained why it wastes money for everyone to use the bathroom? Here's the thing. It was said that they weren't basically allowed to leave the set, even though all they were doing was setting up cameras and stuff for at least an hour of that. So I don't know. What is it with Joker movies and no bathroom breaks? I don't know. Todd Phillips was trying to emulate a real subway smell. He's going for authenticity. Harley Quinn Valentine's Day special was good. I didn't see that one, but that's good to know. I take the public transit in the Boston area, so that tracks. Yeah, the T is a unique system, isn't it? It's an Elseworlds, so no toilet in that universe. There, Sam figured it out. They're going for authenticity. In this world of Joker, there are no toilets. That's just one thing that's very different about this world. But Thomas Wayne is campaigning to invent the first toilet, and Joker will have none of it. That's what it's all about. I didn't see the latest season, so I couldn't quite comment on that. I saw the first 2 seasons. Anyway, look, is it true? I don't know. It's coming from TMZ. They're obviously gossip. It's just that it reminded me that same complaint had been levied against the production team during the first movie, which I do think makes it a little more plausible. Then again, maybe the gossip site remembered that weird complaint, and that's what inspired this. I can't say for sure if it's real or not. I wouldn't know. But it allowed us to make some toilet jokes. Let's move on. Has Tom Holland gotten an absolutely massive payday to come back as Spider-Man? We don't know for sure, but it seems like it's possible. There is a sort of a movie news account. It's on Twitter. It's even bigger, I believe, on Insta. My Time to Shine Hello. So at least they're putting a name to it. I'm just saying it's not coming from an anonymous source. They tweeted that Holland has actually signed a deal that hasn't been announced yet, quietly, with Sony and Marvel, and that the plan is to bring him back for Spider-Man for several movies, including sort of being the main star of the Avengers Kang Dynasty movie. as that makes sense. Does make sense, because they do need like sort of a big hero as well as a big actor there, since their original, like, Captain America, Iron Man, probably by that point Thor, who knows, but like, like they've moved on, right? And it's cool, like, we're moving in a bunch of new heroes, but it makes sense that they'd need somebody big to anchor an Avengers movie. Spider-Man does make a lot of sense, because I think that they know that, like, there are many billions of dollars on that table. Therefore, it's probably worth paying many millions of dollars to get Tom Holland back. Supposedly, this deal also includes, no surprise here, Spider-Man 4, which would then come before the next Avengers movie, Secret Wars. There's a YouTube channel, Everything Always, and it's speculated that they think that Tom Holland could have been paid as much as $100 million, and that he'd probably also get things like a producer credit on the movie, things like that, which would bring in more money. So he's the star of one of the biggest films of all time, so this makes sense. Exactly. I think it's just, I don't think it's if this isn't true, it's a damn good guess. I think it's probably very, very likely. No worries. Thanks for stopping by. Secret Wars sounds fine, but we need John Bernthal back as Punisher. That would be cool. That would be fun. I don't know how he'd fit in, but yeah. His perfect hair has signed the $100 million Moose budget. There you go. Thank you for jumping in. Let's see what else. We need a reproduction of that cover image of Spidey with the black costume on Battle World. Too bad it will probably all be CGI. I certainly don't think it would be a surprise to do something a little different with Spider-Man if they introduced the black symbiote suit into the MCU. Obviously, they've laid the groundwork for that. That would give us a new look for Spider-Man this time, which is kind of, you got to give the audiences something new each time in a movie. I certainly wouldn't be surprised to see him get something like that. I don't think he'd necessarily be the leader, but neither technically was Robert Downey Jr. as Iron Man, and he was still like the biggest star within the movie. Captain America was the leader, but Robert Downey Jr. was the biggest star in those movies, and now that would probably fall to Tom Holland. Anyway. Oh, that's an interesting, fun question. I'll open that up to everybody. Who would you like to see as the villain in a Spidey 4? Let me go first. Not necessarily my favorite villain in the comics, but maybe Venom. I would like to see, even though they've got the Venom series, that might be interesting to see in the MCU, especially if we get like sort of the Fantastic Four introduced somewhere around there, and he could like consult with Reed Richards. If not, there's plenty of classic classic enemies that could be interesting. Even if we've seen other versions, Lizard could be interesting, because Kurt, especially if they build up Kurt Connors as an ally, he could be going to college by now. So Kurt Connors as the Lizard could make sense. Who else? You know what? There's newer villains that could be very interesting, like Mr. Negative. Mr. Negative could be a really good one. I certainly wouldn't mind a new version of Dr. Octopus, but they're probably not going to do that after giving us such a big presence of Dr. Octopus from like, another dimension so recently. Maybe Black Cat and Kingpin? Like some sort of like street level crime stuff? Maybe with like, somebody superpowered as a henchman? The best thing about MCU Secret Wars will be explaining how everyone gets their lenticular shields. Well, that's how you know that my buddy does vintage toy type reviews, because he's remembering the original Secret Wars from the 80s, where they had a toy line and everybody got a shield with a lenticular gimmick. And I always wanted those action figures. I did not actually get one back then when I was a kid. I always wanted one. But just to be clear, Brian, if you haven't read it, there was a second big storyline that was also somewhat confusingly, potentially called Secret Wars, but is not really a sequel or anything. It's a totally different story. It will be the Looter. I think it will be Big Wheel. Oh, Tick Goblin beat me. Scorpion. Scorpion's a good idea, especially if they give Peter a job at the Daily Bugle, like working with J. Jonah Jameson. And if he, like, because Jonah did fund the research for Scorpion. Spider Slayers. Yeah, that hasn't been done. Oh, man. Yes. Actually, that would, you know what? That's probably the one I'd like the most, K-Bar. Kraven's Last Hunt is one of my favorite Spider-Man stories, even though it doesn't really give us a funny Spider-Man. It gives us a great Spider-Man story and a great villain arc. Boy, is it good. I've made an episode on Comic Tropes about it to talk about everything I love. And I think Kraven could work. What makes it a little less likely is that Sony is making this Kraven movie. Every time, like a different version appears, it's probably going to make that a little less likely to appear in an MCU movie. So don't get your hopes up from Morbius. Tombstone. Hey, if you put in like Kingpin and Black Cat, I'd love to see Tombstone and Hammerhead and them all show up. So far, though, Scorpion could be. Oh, Chameleon. Chameleon's a good idea. Mm-hmm. Although I've heard that Chameleon will be in the Kraven movie since they are related. Yeah. Hi, welcome to the show. Kraven, Scorpion. Mm-hmm. He will face off against student debt. You're getting a little too realistic there. Scorpions, the German band. Yes. I follow the Moskwa down to Gorky Park, listening to the wind of change. Paste Pot Pete, starring this guy. Put me up against Tom Holland. He'd kick my ass. Electro, sure. Another for Big Wheel. Hello. Prowler, tell you what. Prowler, absolutely, if you're giving us Miles Morales. Give us Miles. It's time. Give us Miles. Man-Wolf. Punisher. Well, you could, Punisher worked for Jackal. I don't think you want to go down the Spider clone route, but Jackal is a big villain. Enforcers. Yeah, just 3 tough guys. Just a guy with a lasso, a guy with guns, and a big strong guy. Rocket Racer, Judas Traveler. You guys have tons of... Okay. I gotta move on. I can't keep up. I'll go to the next news item, which is also pretty darn cool and somewhat related. I've got a few things that are related here right in a row. So we were just talking about Secret Wars, right? Well, since they've announced that Secret Wars would be the next thing, this was interesting. Secret Wars is sold out at the distributor level. And when I say that, I'm talking about the trade paperback that collects that story. And I want to say that was from 2016, right? Does that sound about right? 6-7 years ago that it came out? I think so. Sold out from both Diamond and Penguin, who distribute the book. But that said, on a Thursday, Marvel did announce that it was going back to print. Usually when they say something's going back to print, that's like about a 3 to 5 week lead time before it's available. So we're saying probably in a month, there'll be like, a second printing of the trade paperback. I liked Secret Wars a lot, as well as Jonathan Hickman's leading up to Secret Wars with like a 2-year Avengers run. It was great. It really built up that story in a great way. I liked it a lot. A bunch of people said 2015. The Wrecking Crew. The Wrecking Crew, I wanted to see as a Thor villain, but obviously they were just sort of used as more of a joke with She-Hulk. It's fine. The Wrecking Crew, I think, is potentially pretty good. Actually promoting the comics you adapt will make them sell more. the best thing was about the Flash trailer, how it ended by mentioning a bunch of the comics. If you watched it all the way to the end, the official trailer, they plug the comics. Smart. It'd be even smarter if the film division and the publishing division had talked ahead of time and made sure that like some of these comics like that James Gunn has been talking about, like, you know, All-Star Superman and Supergirl, you know, Woman of Tomorrow and The Authority were in print before it was announced, but whatever. At least we've got some demand for the comics. I'm glad to see that. I'm glad to see that. Moving on. One more thing related to all of this. Kevin Feige did a big interview with Entertainment Weekly talking about Phase 5 of the MCU. One thing I found interesting was he said that they definitely plan to do some less Disney Plus shows. And I think that the thinking was that there was just too much of it from what he was saying. I can understand that. I've generally liked all of the Disney Plus shows for the MCU. But maybe there is too much. Maybe there is too much. There's potentially the feeling that like people are like, oh, maybe I don't want to see the next movie because, you know, wait, do I need to have seen Loki to understand this? You don't want people thinking that. You want them to be able to jump in and out whenever they feel like it and get an experience at the movies. You don't need them feeling like they needed to see every other movie and every other TV show. That's just not how it should work. You can refer to stuff, but it shouldn't be necessary to understanding and appreciating a movie. He said that they definitely have an idea for Spider-Man 4, lending more speculation to the fact that they probably did sign Tom Holland already. He revealed, this has been out for a little while now, but he revealed that Harrison Ford, you know, he's playing, of course, Thunderbolt Ross. He's now the president. The last time we saw him in the MCU, he was the Secretary of State. Now he's the president. It starts to make a little more sense to me why they went after Harrison Ford. He's got that sort of authority. You know, he's played the president before, Air Force One. It makes sense to in the MCU as well to have seen Thunderbolt Ross sort of make his way up the ranks, unless you look at it too closely and you remember that in The Incredible Hulk, he did unleash the army on U.S. soil on a university campus. Maybe that wasn't something the military should be doing. It seems like that would be the kind of scandal that would preclude you from becoming president. But he obviously kept his, you know, rank as general and became the Secretary of State. So sure, we're going to assume that people hated the Hulk more than they hated the U.S. military on domestic soil. That's he also mentioned that Fantastic Four is one that he really loves, and that it set the foundations for the Marvel comic book universe. And he really wants the opportunity to have Fantastic Four be important to the cinematic universe. Yeah. Harrison Ford is the same age as Joe Biden. Yeah. I'll say this. Harrison Ford is like 80. He doesn't necessarily look 80. Not to me. People are living longer. That's for sure. He dropped a supervillain on Brooklyn. Yeah. He played Jack Ryan, who becomes president in the books. There you go. Get Harrison Ford quick before he crashes another plane. Exactly. Kind of known to be accident prone. He's crashed 2 planes when he was filming that Star Wars sequel. He like broke his leg in the Millennium Falcon set. Anyway, I generally like the Marvel movies, so I hope that it continues to be good. I hope so. There probably is like a point where they'll need to sort of reset everything, and who knows if the next version will be as good. But for now, I still think that they're doing a pretty good job. Also, here's the thing. Kevin Feige, when he's more involved, it does seem like things are a little more comic accurate. When he's sort of gotten a little hands off, it's strayed away from that a little bit. But look, the guy's been doing the Marvel stuff for like a long time. Before there was even the MCU, remember, he was, you know, an associate producer on various Marvel movies. So he's been doing this for like over 20 years and like moving up the ranks. The guy's probably going to become like, you know, some sort of a president within Disney at a certain point. Like he's probably going to become too valuable to them to just be overseeing Marvel stuff. Interesting. More than Marvel fatigue, I'm getting Kevin Feige fatigue. Okay. Different people have different point. You didn't like She-Hulk? I liked She-Hulk. I don't think he'll get that far. Well, not anytime immediately. I'm not saying the president of everything. I'm saying the president of a division. Something higher than just Marvel Studios. They probably want to keep him. He's proven a very good track record for coming up with projects that make money. Okay, so he knows what he's doing. He knows what he's doing in a business sense. But let me move on. I don't want to give you news fatigue about the MCU. Here's just an ad, a house ad. Boy, I used to love house ads in the 80s for comics. They'd excite me so much. Now I'm like grown up and a little more jaded and cynical, so they don't excite me as much, but I used to love house ads. Things like, one of these 4 children is a mutant. Can you guess which one? So I kind of bailed at a certain point on the Zeb Wells, John Romita Amazing Spider-Man. I like them as creators, but I just felt like this book was going so slow. They teased that something huge had happened, quote unquote, 6 months ago that made a lot of people mad at Peter Parker. Okay. The Fantastic Four, Aunt May, MJ. But we don't know what that is. And now we're up to like issue 25. And supposedly we're finally going to find out what it is. And they say that it, in like the preview text and stuff, that it will have the most shocking death within Spider-Man comics in the last 25 years. So I guess that takes us back to what? Oh no, not 25 years, 50 years. That takes us back to Gwen Stacy. That's a pretty high bar to clear. I don't know. But it's past time for them to show us that and move forward. We'll see. What do I think of Tom Cruise playing Jay Garrick or Mr. Miracle? I could save millions by just letting him run. Yeah, but I think he probably doesn't have a lot of interest in that. The big reveal is that Peter Parker tossed Aunt May's wheat cakes into the garbage. Oh, that would make me hate him. Okay, they're talking about something else. Excuse me. Last Dance with Mary Jane. So Peter is going to die? I don't think so. I don't think Peter is going to. No, in fact, just to be clear, they're going to reveal what happened 6 months ago. Okay? He was asked to make a coffee run 6 months ago and got everyone's order wrong. Everyone. There you go. Any speculation? Anybody still keeping up with Amazing Spider-Man? I wanted to like it, but it just was treading water. It was so repetitive. I think Zeb Wells has done great stories, but I didn't like this one too much. I'm going to move on to another Marvel book before I get into some more indie and smaller press books. But I thought this sounded fun. There's a Star Wars horror comic, and I'll just read to you their promotional text, okay? So there's the logo for it. It's called Tales from the Death Star. It's supposed to be sort of horror based, and they say, "That's no moon. Even scattered and destroyed, the ruins of the Death Star are a sinister place. From the destruction of Alderaan to the shadow of the forest moon, alien creatures, phantom starships, deadly artifacts, and vengeful spirits all stalk the halls of the infamous space station." As writer Cavan Scott, who's written Tales from the Rancor Pit, Star Wars The High Republic, that's popular, and an all-star team of artists Eric Powell, love Eric Powell, Sully Vincenzo Riccardi, Ingo Romling, and Juan Samu, reveal the hidden evils that lurked within charred remains of the ultimate firepower in the universe. if Star Wars is to grow and succeed, you need to push it a little bit here and there. I think they've done an excellent job with it with Andor. And going in a horror direction is also a good idea, in my opinion. You got to push for it. We talked about it briefly earlier, Gundam. I liked Ant-Man. And while the critics don't seem to love it, I would say that if you look at the audience scores, they're very high. And it made a tremendous amount of money this weekend. A tremendous amount. So it's doing fine. Let's see. I don't know how much could there be left? Just strains my suspension a bit. Well, according to the sequel movies, quite a bit. Eric Powell art on the Death Star. Yes. In fact, like just something I was just rereading recently. This made my top 10 list the year it came out. Let's do it like this for just a minute. Did you hear what Eddie Gein done? Art by Eric Powell. Non-fiction book. Really, really good. Really, really good. I like Eric Powell. A lot of people, of course, know and love him for The Goon, and they rightly should. But that is a great book. That is a great, great book. Let's see. Tales from the Death Star sounds good. I'll have to find the writer's other work before it's released. Yeah, good. Good one, Beowulf. George Santos was the true designer of the Death Star. I have a copy. Still need to read it. Oh, make it a priority, man. That's a good book. It is legit creepy. Creepy. I love The Goon. Nice. I hope The Mandalorian finds a way to redeem the sequels. I don't think that should be its responsibility for what it's worth, but yeah. I understand. About just trying some different layouts here. I like that one. Oh, you haven't read it yet, Andy? It's pretty damn great. Harold Schechter, I think, has done some true crime stuff before. He's the guy that like really wrote it, and of course, Eric Powell can do good sort of realistic but monstrous stuff and creepy stuff very well. It's a really good book. Did you hear what Eddie the Goon done? There you go. I thought that just sounded fun, so that's cool. Here's one I want to be excited about. I can't honestly say I am yet. But I mean, I think it's okay to be skeptical about another Hellboy movie reboot after the last one apparently did not do well. I didn't even see that one, and I love Hellboy, but it didn't get really good reviews, so I didn't make it a priority to see in the theater, and I still haven't gotten around to seeing it. Maybe it's not that bad, Who knows? Maybe I'll like it. I really love Mike Mignola's work. I love Hellboy. I do. I love it. I think it's fantastic. And I really admire Mike Mignola. He's one of these few creators that left working for Marvel and DC and never really changed his mind. Like some of these people have come back to do a cover or a small story, and that's fine. But, he's stuck doing his own stuff. And I like that. Anyway, it's going to be based, or at least I shouldn't say based. It's going to be called Hellboy the Crooked Man. That is one of the better short Hellboy stories. Art by Richard Corbin, by the way. And it says it's going to be an R-rated movie. It's going to be directed by Brian Taylor, one of the two guys that directed the Ghost Rider 2 movie. Maybe I'm not super excited about that. They say that they've cast the 3 leads. One of them is Hellboy. Another is a character from the Crooked Man story. And a third one will be a surprise. But here's the good news. Here's the best news about this. The script is actually by Mike Mignola and Christopher Golden, who's helped him write some of the Hellboy stories before. That's a good thing. The script is a good thing. And they're going to start filming pretty soon, April, in Bulgaria and Greece. Why? It's dirt cheap to film there. You can get a lot of production value. Let's see. Love all things Hellboy except the last movie. Yeah. A folk horror Hellboy movie is a good idea. Guillermo del Toro directing a folk horror Hellboy adaptation would be even better. Yeah, but you know that like we got to see his vision twice, and he went much, much bigger. You know, that was what he wanted to do. That's probably still what he wants to do. And Hellboy, some of the best stories are much more intimate and less epic. They're really just focusing on real folk horror stories, and they work very, very well. I did not know that Brian Taylor did that. Thank you, infamous Mike Manhattan, for pointing that out. Apparently, he also made the Happy TV show based on the Grant Morrison comic. Okay, that's good. That's good. Josh Brolin would make a great Hellboy. Yeah, that's not bad. That's not bad. I bet they cast younger because they said they announced it. Who knows? Maybe next week we'll know who Hellboy will be. I like Hellboy. I hope it's good. No matter what, I've got the comics. You know, no matter what, I've got the comics, which I still love. We'll see. You know, I just being realistic. It's probably going to have a smaller budget than the last one because the last one didn't really do well. So if you want the creative control, you're going to get less of a budget. That's just the way it is. Happy was great. Yeah, I only saw the first half of it, and I think it was because I didn't have cable, and they like showed some of it on either like YouTube or their official website. So I watched half of it, and then the other half I was never able to see. Yeah, I know he did. I did like the Crank movies. I did like the Crank movies, especially the first one. But yeah, the Crank movies are pretty darn good. If you haven't seen them, they're pretty cool. Moving on, because wow, it's already been a while, and I've still got plenty of news here. We haven't talked about this in a while, which was nice, but we do have another comic book shop robbery. And I report on this stuff because I never know if just putting it on this show will spread the word and maybe help somebody get caught. Because, of course, we are the people that would likely see stolen comics potentially getting sold at, like, you know, a comic shop, a pawn store, online. We just somebody might know it. So I'm going to spread the word. This one took place in San Antonio. It's called the store is called League of Villains. They said that they've had thousands of dollars of merchandise stolen lately with two separate attacks. One was a smash and grab the night of February 2nd. Just threw a rock through the window, ran in, grabbed a bunch of merchandise. And the second was an in-store theft. You know, like 6 days later. I'll be honest, I'm not going to completely put the responsibility on the owners, but I would have probably tried to be a little more careful after the first theft, but whatever. Too bad. Has robbing comic shops become a new TikTok trend? Jesus, it seems like it, right? I was just in San Antonio. I literally almost went to that shop. No, sorry, Terry. I'm not drawing today. I just have too much going on. Yeah, sorry. I know that it's not fun to necessarily talk about this kind of stuff. Yes, a little bit ironic, a little bit of irony there. What would be, yeah. What else could they have named themselves that would have been would have gone over better? Maybe like robber proof comics, anti-theft comics, comic book store with perfectsecurity.com. Comic shops are the key souls of local businesses. Boy, it is really depressing. You know, just seeing how much faith people have lost in Kias and Hyundais because of all the theft on those particular vehicles. You know, some of you know, but like I've got a job and it's selling cars and used cars. So I sell all of them. And yeah, people come in these days and they're just like anything except Kias and Hyundais. I was like, oh, that's too bad. That's too bad that there's that much theft going on. Piracy-free comics. Nothing bad can happen to us, comics. How many Jason-related shirts do you own? I think 3. I can think of 3 anyway right now. I've got this one. I've got one where it's like all the different murder weapons that he's ever used, sort of assembling something like this. And then my buddy John just got me one that looks like the Jack Kirby first issue of Hulk, but it's Jason. Happy Monday. I'm doing pretty good. I'll be doing even better if a bunch of you decide to grab my cover on Indiegogo, my Vampirella cover. I'll be doing even better. And if you need an Infotron, that's an add-on that you can get. Infotron should get a job selling cars, double the income. Yep, he should. You just remember to hit the like button? Well, that's always a help. That's always a help. I've got more news, though. I've got quite a bit of more news, so let's keep moving. Let's roll. Some ComiXology updates came from the website The Popverse, and they talked to a bunch of people that still work, apparently, at ComiXology. They all talked off the record, so depends on how much you believe The Popverse, but according to their article, there's about 25 to 30 employees remaining at ComiXology versus the roughly 100 that worked there in January. So looks like quite a few layoffs. Somewhere close. That 75% layoff number sounds more and more accurate. And also, some of the people that are remaining are said to be on limited term contracts, some of them only through July. That is not much longer. Any media inquiries that are submitted to ComiXology now get forwarded up the chain of command to just Amazon. So that's how few people are working at ComiXology. And finally, somebody saw this, that Amazon is hiring digital content associates, and those specifically are said to work on digital comics. But importantly, it specifically says that it's working under the Kindle brand. So all the evidence is towards ComiXology being phased out probably this year. I don't think that it's going to stay around for long. We'll see. It's disappointing. It was, when it started, a very nice interface and a good product. Maybe this will create some new competition, which I'm all for. But ComiXology had the best overall reader for digital comics, I think, and Kindle's is not very good. So frustrating, but the ComiXology integration with Amazon has always been clunky. So we'll see. Hey, my buddy Randy's here. Nice to see you, Randy. What do you think of global comics as an option for buying digital? I've been hearing that name more. I'm not super familiar with it yet. Obviously, I need to be if I'm doing this job. So, yeah, does anybody have any opinions on global comics? If so, that would be very good to hear about. Here's my weird nerdy neighbors is saying drive-through comics is great. Okay. Will this business with Amazon and ComiXology affect Scott Snyder's deal with them? He'd be the one to ask, but I would imagine so. Randy, your campaign for Bullet Adventures is still going, right? For another couple days? If you go to Kickstarter and you look up Bullet Adventures, Randy has a campaign going for his comic. Issue 1 went through Kickstarter and was successful. Now issues 2 and 3 are available together. And if you haven't read it, you can also add issue 1. Okay. Yeah. And he says that his campaign wraps Thursday. He got some really good artists and writers to work on this. It's a speedster comic. I would say basically all ages friendly, but yeah. So Bullet Adventures, good comic. I'm not just saying that. ComiXology going away does suck, but I won't be mourning it because I mainly read physical comics. I mainly do too, but I like the idea of and I do read I do read digital comics still, but I want them to be easy to get, and they need to be cheaper. I've got Ninja Turtles news. Kevin Eastman was interviewed on a Rolling Stone magazine podcast, and he said that there is a Last Ronin sequel coming. So The Last Ronin was very popular. Right now, there is a sort of prequel to it called Lost Days, Last Ronin Lost Days. But there will be a sequel, and it will follow the new turtles that were introduced as just babies. Kevin Eastman specifically said to the podcast, the evolution of the new characters, the new turtles, it was the same heart and soul. It would be easy to say, oh, here's more turtles, and they're named after 4 scientists. The story and how you're introduced to them, and as you see them grow and what they're going to become in the lost years, you're seeing just the tip of the iceberg. So, yeah, we're introduced to these. We've seen them in issue 1 of Last Ronin Lost Years. Let's see. I'm still getting used to the new ones. I think that this is Odin, and this is Moja. Yeah, I'm actually forgetting their names. I need to keep reading. I'm sorry, I forget. No, Peter Laird isn't really involved, other than like the original Last Ronin thing. He helped come up with the plot originally, so he was credited in that. But he hasn't really stayed involved working with IDW, whereas Kevin Eastman works directly with them. That said, neither of them own the rights anymore, just to be clear. Eastman had sold his portion of the rights to Laird, and then several years later, Laird ended up selling his rights to Viacom. So neither of them have the rights, although I will point out that Peter Laird did have a clause when he sold them. He does have the right to make a certain number of his own Ninja Turtles comics if he ever wants to. So far, he hasn't wanted to. That one turtle has smooth model legs. Well, 2 of them are girls, and they're all different types of turtles, just to be clear. Yeah. Global Comics looks like a rising star in the digital comics world with the publishers and webcomic creators they're hosting. There's probably a lot of money involved in digital comics if somebody can get it right. I mean, Webtoons is huge in South Korea. Huge. It's big business. So, a good digital platform would make a lot of sense. Yeah, I'll plug that again gladly. The cartoonist kayfabe guys, they got both Kevin Eastman and Peter Laird to appear together as they went page by page through the original Ninja Turtles comics for a pair of episodes. So cool. I'm so jealous that they got to do that. But on a related note, they had Brian Bolland on this week to talk about some of his comics. They get some great interviews. That's the advantage of being a pro. Yeah, I think Laird is kind of happily retired. He got paid a good amount. Peter Laird is older than Kevin Eastman. He seems to be pretty happily retired. I hope he's happy. I hope he's happy because I love the Ninja Turtles. Teague, if you order one of the copies of the book, the plush and pin are available as add-ons. If you go to the discussion tab, it explains that. Yeah, Cartoonist Kayfabe is great. They're great. You got to meet Peter. I've never met Peter. I've met Kevin Eastman. I've never met Peter. That would be really nice if I got to. That would be really nice. Probably not going to happen, but it would be nice. I got the new Turtles first appearance on Sunday. They had plenty of copies, so it won't be that rare. Yeah, they're probably printing more because Last Ronin sold very, very well. It's something new. Ed Piskor has credited you with telling him Japan was open again after the pandemic, so you're responsible for a large portion of their content. I really like and respect Ed and Jim quite a bit. Yeah, they're great. They're great. Good YouTube show. A little different than mine, but they make a really nice show. Let's see what else we've got for news. Yo, this is huge news to me anyway. I consider this comics. I consider newspaper comics comics. I mean, that's where comic books came from, was the newspaper strips. And Calvin and Hobbes stands as one of the all-time best comic strips. I don't think anyone can disagree with that. Calvin and Hobbes is incredible. That's something I've wanted to make as an episode for a very long time, and sometimes I can't do some of these things that I love because I'm so intimidated about doing a good job on them. But someday I will. Someday I will. Bill Watterson is amazing, and Calvin and Hobbes stands as an incredible accomplishment. And hey, respect to him. He finished that about 30 years ago, and he has not done a big project since. He's done a few little things, but he has not done a whole lot. He's been happily retired. More power to him. But he is working on something comics related. The Mysteries. Just to be clear, he's basically writing this. He's not doing the art. That's by a guy named John Cashed. It's coming out through Simon & Schuster. Coming out in October. It's a 72-page, some say graphic novel, some say more of like an illustrated storybook. I don't know exactly. But the plot revolves around a kingdom that's been home to frequent disasters. Desperate for an end to the calamities, the king enlists his knights to go in search of the source for all these events. And years later, only a single knight returns to tell the tale. But you know what? It's Bill Watterson. I'm there. I'm there. So who knows what it's about, but I trust them. Him, Bill Watterson. That's so cool. I adore Calvin and Hobbes. Yep. Calvin and Hobbes was about the only strip that was worth reading for years, no question. This comes out on my birthday, and I'm so excited. Grew up religiously reading Calvin and Hobbes. Yes. Calvin and Hobbes, Snowmen strips are awesome. They're all awesome, but yeah. Watterson, the guy that did that little boy peeing on the car decals, he did not do those. Those are a ripoff. Yeah. Is it a space adventure? No. Sold. Yes. I do not want a Calvin and Hobbes cinematic universe. I'm happy with what he did. He got started pretty young. Just back to your Vampirella cover. The Infotron plush didn't come up as an option for add-ons. I'll talk to the guys tomorrow. They might be on a long weekend break. My understanding was it was available in add-ons and that we'd addressed it. You should be able to also go back in if we correct it. You should be able to go back in and always add add-ons as long as the campaign is up. So we'll figure it out. Yeah, it's so different than Calvin and Hobbes, Ashley. So different. It's supposed to be prose on one page and illustration on the other. That's fine. As long as he's involved, I'm going to check it out is all. Let's see. The last time Watterson was involved in a comic, if I remember correctly, was as a guest artist on Pearls Before Swine storyline in 2014. I think he also did a fill-in more recently on Family Circus. I'm pretty sure. Sad that Watterson isn't drawing. Yeah, but I will definitely still pick it up. Exactly. I would love to see him draw more. Boy, I really love the ones where he'd have dinosaur stories, where Calvin thought that he was going up against dinosaurs. He could draw a mean dinosaur. That's for sure. That is for sure. Anyway, definitely one of my favorite creators. And I wish he did more, but at least this is something else. I'm curious to see what he does with it. He's got an interesting way of looking at the world and a good sense of humor. So even though this sounds dark, something tells me it'll probably have some funny stuff in it too. We'll see. Wanted to mention it anyway. Saga. Boy, that is smaller text than I realized I used. Okay. Anyway, Brian K. Vaughan gave an interview on Comics Beat, The Beat. I recommend heading out there and reading it. It's a really good interview. He talked about a lot of stuff, and I'm only briefly mentioning the highlights, but I love Brian K. Vaughan's work, so I definitely recommend checking that out. He said that Saga, he views it as his life's work. Wow. I kind of inclined to agree. He He also said that he called it an honor when readers say that Saga has made them emotional. What else here? He mentioned that since they had to raise the price due to like paper costs and printing costs and stuff, they raised it to $3.99. For the longest time, they kept it at $2.99. It's still only $3.99, where a lot of comics are more like $4.99 or so. So it's still a very good value, but they had to raise the price. So he said what they've done is add more pages though to the letters page, and it is an acclaimed letters page. They do some really great stuff in there. Contests, behind the scenes, sort of like interviews and stuff, and answering a lot more questions than the typical letters page. They do a lot with that. Also talked a little bit about his not safe for work comic, The Spectators. And those pages come out on Monday on his Substack and are free to read, by the way. And he called that one of the happiest creative experiences in his life, that he's just having a great time working with Nico Henderson on that. Nico Henderson previously drew his graphic novel Pride of Baghdad. And finally, he said that he sort of plugged his Substack and said that, paid members get access to all sorts of like comics that for whatever reason like fell apart. Like he's sharing that stuff, as well as like, he's written in Hollywood for a long time. So he's like got like, scripts and stuff that just never ended up happening. Oh man, yeah. Fiona Staples is huge. He talks her up a lot, and he says that, look, the fact is that they each independently have kids, and that's why their production time on Saga has slowed down. But yeah, it's okay. Like they do a great job on that book. That text is for ants. It's terrible. Yes, I did a bad job on that. I did a bad job. That's why I read it to you as well. No reading required on this show. I'll do the reading for you. That's the pros and cons guarantee. I do the reading for you. You'll wait for the compendium. There is one compendium, just to be clear, for the first like 50 or 55 issues. It's a fantastic value. Fantastic value. Brian K. Vaughan was brought on to write the Mobile Suit Gundam movie. I didn't know that. Was he really? Huh. No, it's not a mistake. It's not a mistake. I don't make mistakes. Saga is great in the deluxe collections with the extra pages of sketches. Just got one of your remarked Vampirella covers. Thank you. I'm only doing 5 of them. I know at least 2 of them have been claimed now. So yeah, thank you. I will do my best when I get it. I will do my best. Remark is just sort of a simple sketch on the cover. But thank you. Thank you very much. That's really appreciated. There's still several more pieces of news, and we're already coming up on 2 hours. But, I was a big fan of the Buffy the Vampire Slayer TV show. Big fan. Love it. I still love it. Joss Whedon, definitely a problematic creator. But guess what? A lot of talented people worked on that show. It's not just his. So I'm still going to enjoy and appreciate the show. A lot of great actors, a lot of great writers, a lot of great directors, tech people. I'm still going to love Buffy. I think Buffy is really cool. I think Buffy, just to be clear, changed comics. Buffy essentially is a superhero show. Buffy has superpowers and a mission, taking out supernatural creatures. And initially, she keeps her identity a secret. But slowly, the people in her that are closest to her closest friends and family, learn who she is. And it works because they become much more active supporting characters. And I feel like that changed the dynamic in a lot of comic books and comic book adaptations moving forward, where people started finding out the characters' identities and becoming much more proactively involved as like a support team around them. And I think that, keeping it a secret from the general public versus keeping it a secret from your closest friends, that sort of tension of keeping a secret can only last so long. So anyway, Yeah, I love it. Oh, only one remarked cover left. Wow. Maybe I'll add a few more then. Maybe I'll add a few more. We'll see. I watched The Body. Oh man, that was a good, serious episode of the show. As funny as a lot of episodes were, yeah. I never could get into Buffy. How much viewing would there be? Well, there were 7 seasons, and just to be clear, Angel had a spinoff, and there were 5 seasons of that. So, there's like 12 seasons worth of shows. Some of them better than others, but I loved them all. I loved them all. I did see the Buffy movie in the theaters. It was good for what it was, but the show was a lot better. The show was a lot better. So, anyway, let me explain. But Boom has announced that they're making a new Buffy comic book set in the TV continuity. Why is that a big deal? Well, Boom got the rights to do the Buffy comics in 2019, and they rebooted things. They told a new version with the characters, and then they slowly introduced that there are parallel universes. So there's essentially a Buffy multiverse. They didn't do like all sorts of Buffys like teaming up, to my knowledge, but they established that this was a separate universe that works within Buffy. But in May, what they're going to be doing is a story set back in the TV continuity. Those are the versions of the characters that I love the most. It's going to be set during probably during the 6th season. Spike the Vampire was established as being a very bad poet before he was turned into a vampire. But he now has his poetry is potentially going to get found, and he's willing to do just about anything to keep it from being found. So the whole gang goes on a road trip from Sunnydale, California to New Orleans to prevent that from happening. So it's a road trip comic. I love New Orleans as well, and I'm very curious to see what happens. I wasn't really a fan of where Dark Horse went with season 8 and 9 of Buffy. I think they even did a season 10, didn't they? Didn't they do 3 more seasons? I sort of agree. There were some good issues. They officially, like Joss Whedon was on board and oversaw a continued continuity to Buffy in the comics. So like the story officially did continue beyond the TV show too, just to be clear. And they got a bunch of the writers that worked on the TV show to write those comics. So there was some authentic dialogue and stuff, but I think that they felt like, hey, look, we've got no budget. Now we can do all sorts of big stuff. And that they sometimes went way too big. And some of the fun of the show was that the characters all lived and worked with each other, and protected this one town, and that was cool. We didn't need them to be globe-trotting and fighting giants and stuff like that. There were still some good intimate stories, though, that were told. Yeah, Brian K. Vaughan was brought in to do some of the comic issues, and he did some really good stuff. But I kind of agree that the comics got a little unwieldy and too big. Although I will say towards the end of that continuity, there was a Angel and Faith comic that was actually pretty darn good. It did a good job again of bringing together some of the characters, having like a more focused mission, had good artwork that was consistent, and it didn't feel like it was trying to go too big. That was pretty good. Oh man, I know. Anyanko is great. Anyanko is great. And I'll tell you something, as a huge Buffy fan, it really makes me sad to see Nicholas Brendan having so many problems with his life. He played Xander, and he definitely has addiction issues. It's very sad for me to see him go that way, but the characters are separate from the actors, and I really love those characters. I really do. I thought I'd mention it because I'll probably be checking this out because I love the characters so much. What else? Here's another comic, sort of indie comic. Yeah, it's definitely indie. Bone. There's another anthology coming out. This is, just to be clear, and it's marked here and everything, but I want to give them credit. This is a Comic Book Resources exclusive. So all I'm doing is reporting on Comic Book Resources reporting, but I wanted to get a conversation going. I think I've legally covered myself that this is fair use. This is a reaction. and transformative. But as we can see here, it's called More Tall Tales. It's an anthology written by Jeff Smith and Tom Sniegowski, and he's written before, like with Jeff Smith on. There was originally a Tall Tales anthology. He also did writing on a trilogy of novels. But anyway, it's illustrated by Jeff Smith. Yes, please. Stan Sakai. Absolutely. Katie Cook. Cool. Matt Smith. Not super familiar. Scott Brown. Not super familiar. But a little bit of new bone. I'm there. Anthology is probably the way to go as compared to a sequel or anything. No, it told a complete story. It's done. But if they want to tell me some smaller stories with those characters, I'm there. I'm there. Bone is absolutely brilliant. Absolutely brilliant. Bone. Finally, more bone. Let the great cow races begin. I can't wait. Will it be in color? Actually, I don't know. That is a great question. Probably not the actor. No, probably not the Doctor Who actor. What a good question that I did not think to look up. I don't know. I don't know. It's possible. It's possible since this is being published by Scholastic/Graphics. There you go. Jeff Smith mentioned the new Bone anthology on his social media pages. Good. I thought it was worth mentioning too. I love Bone. I was very proud of the episode I did talking about that book. Bone Coda was black and white. Okay, so it's possible it could still be black and white. More Bone? Beautiful. Hope everything is doing well tonight. Everything is doing all right tonight. Comic Core says, I used to buy Bone at Scholastic book fairs in school. I've loved it since I was a kid. Very excited for this. Are Jeff and Matt related? I don't know. I didn't see anything about that. I also wondered the same thing. I don't know. I assume you meant Bone and you got auto-corrected. Yes, I was right. Bone is good. Bone is a great fantasy story. It's great. So, it's always worth mentioning. We've got a few more pieces of news, so let's keep going so that I can have some dinner and you guys can go to bed, right? I thought that this was interesting because Dynamite, like, apparently is got the license to do all sorts of Disney stuff. And you'd think, well, shouldn't Marvel be publishing Disney stuff? They probably should, but good for Dynamite for putting together good creators and having good sales that they can do this, because they've got a new book based on Maleficent coming out, and the Disney villains are generally pretty compelling. So, hey, they've made movies about this. Why not comics? Maleficent by Sue Lee, that comes out in May, and that's following them doing Gargoyles, Darkwing Duck, Scar. My question to all of you at this point is, if they're doing all these things, what Disney property or character would you want to see Dynamite do next? They've got 4 books now, 4 Disney things. Like, do you have either a ride, a Disney TV show, a Disney villain that they should do? I really like the Gargoyles comics. Yeah. Robin Hood? That'd probably have to be a straight adaptation, right? Because, like, there's not, like, tons of Robin Hood stories, but sure. I like Maleficent, so I'll check it out. Yeah. Ursula. Yeah. That's not a bad idea. Let's understand her a little bit. Rescue Rangers? I was too old to have, so I didn't watch that one, but I bet Chip and Dale would be popular. I bet that there's an audience for that. I mean, they did just make that Chip and Dale movie, right? So there's probably an audience for that. DuckTales, no question. Yeah, there's definitely an audience, I think, for more duck stuff. A duck book. I think that there's definitely an audience for that. Snow White, what made her evil queen so evil? Okay, sure. There's another vote apparently for Rescue Rangers. Original DuckTales, yep. Disney would rather license their properties to other comic publishers. Hey, as long as they're done well. Yeah, Gummy Bears. I did like the Gummy Bears Saturday morning cartoon. That's not bad. Aristocats. Aristocats. Oswald the Rabbit. I love Oswald the Rabbit. That's not a bad idea. Thank you. Gargoyles is a comic, so you can definitely check that one out. Bonkers the Bobcat. I don't know that one. I think I know what it is, but I never watched it, is what I mean. It doesn't just had a comic, it has a comic. It's going on now. It's by the guy who created the show. So, if you like the show, you're probably going to love the comic. And they've also got a great artist on it. Like, yeah. The new DuckTales series was great. Nice. Darkwing Duck. Yep. Nice to see you here, Marvin Nation. Let's see. More love for Treasure Planet and Atlantis. Atlantis actually has plenty of room to be to expand. That would be a good idea for a comic. Why do the villains need backstories? Can't villains just be bad? Hey, sometimes they can, but I will argue that a really good villain can have a good backstory, and sometimes how they became bad is an interesting story to tell. I do think that that's definitely a thing. Tailspin. That was a show too, right? Around the same time as things like Rescue Rangers and DuckTales. Yeah, I was just a little too old, so I don't know that stuff. Kingdom Hearts would probably be pretty popular, but then there's like all sorts of like, you got a few more licensing rights because you've got to coordinate with Squaresoft, right? Isn't that who does the does that stuff? I don't know. 101 Dalmatians with the Human Target mid-century modern ad illustration style. Okay. What are your thoughts on the Bob Iger thing? I think that Bob Iger has been very successful for Disney. I'm fine with him coming back. Doesn't Dynamite have their comic? Absolutely they do, just to be clear. Yes. Anybody nerdy like me memorized the Gummy Bear intro song? I definitely have that one memorized. Quasimodo, that's different. Yep. Somebody already suggested Darkwing Duck. I mean, just to be clear, though, there is a Dynamite is also doing right now a Darkwing Duck comic. So, isn't Oswald now in the public domain? Might be in the public domain by year, but not like you couldn't make it look like Disney's version. There's also trademark rights. Oddly, Disney had animation rights to the bande dessinée Marsupilami. Yes, I've heard about that they had the rights to adapt that, but I don't think it happened for some reason. Whoa, Larry, thank you so much. I'm on a trip in Mexico and just bought a Batman figure with a bright red black suit just because it's so weird. Is that an old version or just wrong? There have been versions with a black and red color scheme. I mean, certainly Batman Beyond is the most famous, I would argue, but also Flashpoint, Thomas Wayne has a black and red color scheme, and I'm sure there's a couple others. So it has been done before. That might be official, just to be clear. Without seeing it, I couldn't say. But thank you very much for the super chat. Does the Gargoyles comic come with a link to a free download of the Gargoyles theme? Nick, if you're still watching, that's a good question. I've got some more news that I'm really excited to add my commentary on, so let me move forward. Here's one that I appreciate. Japanese manga artist opposes AI. And just to be clear, he's opposing it as a politician. Yes, Ken Akamatsu is within like manga, probably best known for the comic Love Hina. But he joined the Japanese Diet as a legislator. So he has transitioned his career. And he has, while he has not drafted the legislation yet, he has floated solutions to AI imagery infringing on artists' rights. This image down here in the bottom right-hand corner, that is an image from his YouTube channel. Probably most of us here don't speak fluent Japanese, But he's got like a 40-minute video talking about the issues there, and he's talked about it with other politicians. He's floated some ideas on how to address AI imagery not stealing from artists, including things like methodology for having artists opt out of the data sets that have collected probably their stuff, as well as granting licenses to AI developers that can then pay artists to use their work. So this debate is going on in Japan right now. I don't think it's a debate happening with any of our legislators here in the US. Artists and creators are talking about it, but not really any politicians. So Japan may end up doing all of us a solid by setting a precedent, because they're further ahead in this debate than we are. They're further ahead than we are. So, let's see. Dynamite is probably my second favorite comic publisher, though. That's not bad. That's not bad. Wow, that's awesome. Good that someone who's a veteran of the craft himself can help lead the discussion. He understands and respects artists, right? Probably a good thing Japan is cracking down on AI art. We'll call it AI imagery, in my opinion. I think art is only created by people. The manga anime style that is currently popular there is exceptionally easy for art AIs to reproduce. There's some truth to that. What are your thoughts on writer-artist Brian Haberlin using AI for his comic covers? Images wrongfully getting the blame for his decisions. Hard to say. It depends on which program they're using. If they're using a program that has, grabbed data from artists without getting their permission, I don't think it's the right way to go. I don't. I feel the issue isn't the tech, it's them feeding copyrighted material into the AI. I agree. If you get permission and get the license from artists, I have no problem with that technology existing and being used. I really don't. But I think that ripping off artists without giving them compensation or the right to withdraw is the worst thing. Yes, it's all about ethical training on these AIs. Anyway, good for Ken Akamatsu, in my opinion. Thank you very much for the work that you are doing. I don't know what else to say other than I've been following this as a topic, and that's how I came across this news from Japanese sources. And if you want to learn more, there are several articles up this week. You can look up Ken Akamatsu, and you will find some of his ideas on the issue. U.S. Congress won't address AI issues until they are somehow directly affected. It's true. Even a good politician, that's trying to represent their constituents, how many artists out there are making a fuss about this? Not that many. So they're not listening to it yet. They probably, I bet you, if you surveyed, 100 U.S. representatives, there might be like 5 that know about this issue. You know what I mean? We'll see. Exactly. We have to start addressing this stuff now, because the news, the technology is there, and we have to find a way to use it, but we have to find a way to do it ethically and protect creators. Wally, I see your question. I'm going to get to that news. And yes, Jojo's right. It affects writing too. They're taking, and what's probably going to unfortunately be the thing that starts people talking about AI is the technology to do deep fakes, I think, on people, which is sort of AI, but not really. But I think that the fact that you could do deep fakes of actual politicians saying things that they don't believe in, that'll be what wakes them up. Or, porn, deep fakes of non-consenting actors and actresses and just public figures. That's some pretty unethical shit. and that stuff's out there. And I think that that's the kind of stuff that some legislators will crack down on. We just have to make sure that the rules they're coming up with are ones that benefit creators. We'll see. We'll see. I hope nobody's working on a Chris fake. I hope not. So this one's pretty huge. I think a bunch of you may have been exposed to this manga and anime creator that passed away, even if you're not necessarily aware of it off the top of your head. But Leiji Matsumoto passed away at age 85. Passed away, just to be clear, a little over a week ago, and we're only hearing about it now because one nice thing, in my opinion, about Japan is they will keep this stuff quiet from the press, and the press will be pretty respectful about it to give family and friends time to grieve properly. So they don't always report on this stuff right away. They give usually the family a nice little window. So it did already happen a little while ago. But age 85, worked on both manga and anime directly. Here are three of the big ones, and they're all sort of space-based. And then I'll talk about some of the other stuff that Matsumoto-san did that was important. But Space Battleship Yamato, that was adapted or translated into English. That was a show that was on TV when I was very, very young. Most of this stuff is 70s into the very early 80s. Also Space Pirate Captain Harlock and Galaxy Express 999. What Leiji Matsumoto did that was unique at the time was add more depth to his stories than was typical with manga and animation at the time. In fact, I forget the term, but it was called something different before it was really called anime regularly. It was called TV manga, and I think it translated more as like a Terubu manga, like a short abbreviation for television, like Terubu manga, like TV manga was more like the term for animated adaptations of this stuff. And the fact that he was creating stuff that was a little deeper kind of led to the term anime. Well known for, some adding important roles for feminine characters, and finding a way to sort of make space exploration more of a metaphor for exploration of a character's journey. But some pretty great stuff. Let's jump back and see what people are saying. Yeah, like I also remember Star Blazers. Yep, Star Blazers is the American name for Space Battleship Yamato. Let's see. My buddy was such a big fan of this, and I don't think he knows. I remember Star Blazers. Good. I've always loved Captain Harlock. Yep. Somebody. What else? Anything else about this? Also, Daft Punk animator. I don't know exactly what that refers to. Sorry. Well, thanks for stopping by. I appreciate it. Gun Frontier was a pretty good anime from what I remember. It was a Western he did. Okay, that one I don't really know. Yes, definitely rest in peace. Leiji Matsumoto did a lot for this stuff. And as you can see in this image, you can read this stuff in manga. You know what? Now that I say this, I didn't double check to see whether all of this has been translated into English. But if it hasn't, some publisher out there should jump on it. There's a bunch of good manga that has not been translated into English. That was a conversation I had on Twitter this week. There's a great book that's coming out these days called Kingdom that would be a good adaptation. I would love to see a full adaptation of Ikegami's Spider-Man. Ryoichi Ikegami did Crying Freeman, I believe, but he did an interesting Spider-Man, and not all of it has been translated yet. So that Oh, thank you for the super chat, Michael. Yeah, yeah, it is sad that he passed away. It's very sad. Seven Seas has published all the original Captain Harlock manga and Space Battleship Yamato. What about Galaxy Express, I wonder? Am I coming to Japan anytime soon? I don't have my tickets yet, but I'm thinking I will come in June. Hopefully it's not too hot yet, but probably like, maybe like the second and third weeks of June. I don't think any of it crossed over. It was all exploring some pretty different themes, just to be clear. Um, I haven't read the manga in this particular case. I was exposed to each of these animations, but I don't think I've read any of the manga. No, I haven't. Oh yeah, Kodansha did Queen Emeraldus. Okay. Yeah, I don't know about rainy season in Japan. That's okay. Not every day will be rainy anyway. Oh, thank you for the super chat. That's really kind of you. I sincerely appreciate it. It helps. As I said earlier at the show, I got to get a new computer. Got. That's going to be a big expense that I wish I didn't have. And I also, I need to repair my fence, which fell down. That's going to be a big expense. That's a bummer. June is still borderline survivable. Oh, geez. Don't scare me. Don't scare me. I got to get back. I got to get back. And I feel like that's the soonest I'm going to be able to. But this was a very important creator. And I wanted to mention it. I've got one more piece of news that I'm so super, super stoked about. Pluto, the manga, is being adapted for Netflix. They released a 4-minute animated trailer. I thought it looked pretty dope. It had some great music to it. I think Pluto was maybe the third episode of Comic Tropes I ever made. Naoki Urasawa is, I think I have to be honest, like my favorite living comic book creator. He writes epic stories with characters that I just really find engaging and relatable. I love his art style. I love his pacing. I love everything about what he does. And Pluto was beautiful, as are basically all of his stories. Pluto's one of the easier ones to get into because it's shorter than most of his manga. You can get it in 8 tankobon volumes. It's actually always been a little tricky to get a couple of the ones in the middle, I will admit. And with this announcement, it might be even harder, but hopefully that just leads to new editions being reprinted. Pluto was an adaptation in and of itself of a great Astro Boy story. My favorite Osamu Tezuka Astro Boy story, The Greatest Robot on Earth. And he re-envisioned it, Naoki Urasawa did, as this gritty, high-tech noir murder mystery. Really, really cool adaptation. Really, really cool. Both versions are super, super good. Great animation, it looks like. And it's, don't know when, but they say it's going to debut this year. I definitely recommend checking out the trailer, but even more than that, I totally recommend getting Pluto. Let's jump back. Okay. June will be fine. Okay, good. Then I'm definitely still planning on it. His work crosses over a lot. It is in a loosely defined universe? I did not know that. That's so interesting. I never knew that. Pluto! Hell yeah. Daft Punk and Matsumoto collaborated on music videos for the Interstellar 555 album. I love Daft Punk. I didn't know that. See, I just learned something cool tonight. That's so cool. Super hyped. Yes. I was worried when I saw Netflix was behind this, but it looks really good. I'd understand, but I think that they're going to be able to tell the whole story. So it's not like we have to worry that it'll get canceled like a season in and there won't be more story. I think it'll be like pretty easy to, I think you could adapt this all as just one season. I really think you could. We'll see. Pluto is so amazing. I feel like everyone has a different Urasawa favorite, and that is mine. I agree. I think my favorite might be Monster, but I love it all. I love it all. That can go extremely good or horribly bad. Could, but I liked the preview. I liked what they showed me. I read Pluto after you reviewed. Thank you, Mr. Vic. That's great to know. 20th Century Boys was great, but sagged a little in the middle. I could see what you're saying, but it did definitely still give me big feels towards the end. Boy, big feels. I've been rewatching Manben. Even if he didn't make manga, Urasawa would be a legend just for that. If you don't know what that is, Naoki Urasawa created an amazing documentary show, I believe for NHK television. It's called Manben. He also somewhat confusingly has like an art book called Manben out there, which is also awesome if you can get it. I love it. But his show, Manben, oh, I love this premise. He picks a mangaka and follows them around in their studio for a few days, and then will also sit down one-on-one in like a viewing room looking at some pages, and they analyze their art. So they follow their style. He asks questions of the mangaka and like their assistants about like their process for creating and what they want to do with their artwork. How interesting is that? Personally, I would, if for some reason this channel had been like, a Comics Explained type channel and gotten to like 2 million subscribers, and I was like independently wealthy off of YouTube, what I would want to do is essentially do Manben for the American audience. That's what I would want to do, is just go to creators, studios, and interview them and make mini documentaries about it. That's what I'd want to do. Anyway, back to Urasawa. Let's see, also a big fan of Urasawa's works. I really hope this goes well and we get a monster adaptation. And also, speaking of manga that hasn't been adapted, the main one I'd want to read, not adapted, but I should say translated, excuse me. The main one I'd want to read in English is Naoki Urasawa's Billy Bat. I don't know. There's some issue there where Viz is not adapting that one, and I don't know why, but I really want to read that. I love the trailer for the Geschick fan service, the middle-aged blonde guy in the trailer. Yes, he is the main detective. I've had a couple of friends yelling at me to read Pluto for a while now. Looks like a good time to start tracking it down. Good luck. Yes. You got to get the Astro Boy boots. Those are a thing now, right? Yeah. Pluto, the only appropriately lengthy Urasawa manga series. It expands a little on the greatest robot on Earth, but is still very manageable, very, very quick. I wish they would adapt Descender Ascender as an animated feature. I hope this also means the Astro Boy cartoon series is not in development hell. I don't know about that. Chris, did you notice the news about Disney pulling 2 of Don Rosa's stories? That's true. I didn't really talk about that, Wally, but yes, Disney has put a couple of Don Rosa's Donald Duck stories in the same vault where they keep things like Song of the South. They sent him a letter saying that, times have changed, that it was racially insensitive to continue publishing 2 stories. And I guess Don Rosa felt like that they weren't right, that they should still be able to print them. He also was annoyed because by saying that those 2 issues can't be published, it means that they were stories within larger stories that won't be published, in trade paperbacks. But I haven't read the stories, so I don't really have an opinion on that. All I can say is that Fantagraphics does reprint several Carl Barks Donald Duck stories, and just has a disclaimer in the front that, some of this stuff hasn't aged well, but they're just going for historical accuracy, but that, that there are absolutely issues that will be potentially offensive now. So, yeah. Let's jump back to Urasawa. Let's see. Is this going to be an anime? Yep. This is an anime. Yep. Monben is a great series. I completely agree, and thank you for the super chat. Naoki Urasawa is the host of Monben. I would love it if they ever just officially, like, released that show here, translated into English. I've seen one or two on YouTube be translated into English, and if I watch it slowly, there's others that are still in Japanese. If I watch it slowly, I can usually get the gist of it, but it's not a very easily digestible way for me to enjoy it. My Japanese is like, like a kindergartner. It's so bad. It's so bad. My Japanese is terrible. I wish it was better. I have a hard time. I'm trying to learn it, but I'm going slow. I'm going slow. You know what? But though is I'm learning it with what's the name of that silly little app? Duolingo. And that's not as good as, like, you have to force yourself to, like, immerse in it and talk with a teacher. The Monben song is the best. Well, outside of making manga, Urasawa's next passion is music, rock music. He plays the guitar a lot. He has a lot of respect for a lot of different great musicians, and music is always an important part of his stories, I think. Maybe not always. A bunch of times it is. Can I post a link? If you do, YouTube automatically, like, I think rejects it. So basically, like, no, you are not able to. So that was all the news I had, actually. That was all the news I had. So what I want to do now is just one last plug for myself, because I know it's probably annoying to hear me mention it, but I have to mention this, because here's the thing. I can post on my social media accounts, like, Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, even YouTube. I can post these links, but guess what happens? Every single social media platform, when you post a link, what it does is it artificially instantly chokes that and only lets a few people that directly subscribe to you see it. And it doesn't show it to everybody, because they don't like people leaving their platform. So unless you pay to do it as an ad, not many people see it. It means that I have to post it a lot, and some people that follow me more actively, will see everything that I post and might get exposed to it more. But a lot of people just have no idea when I post these links. So I have to put it in front of people regularly. It's frustrating that all of them are just like, it's hard to promote yourself on social media if you have a link to something. It's hard. So I'm really proud of this cover. I think it's a lot of fun. Yeah, Randy, you've got like this Kickstarter campaign. Go to Kickstarter. I'm trying to help, all my friends. Randy's a good friend. So, he's got a great book. It's really fun, called Bullet Adventures. If you go to Kickstarter, you can get issues 1 through 3. All the work is done. Longest spinner rack in Tropes history. I love it, and I'm here for it. Boy, I guess this one is longer than a lot of others. I'm getting the 3 signed covers tomorrow. I'd be happy to sign a bunch. I'd be happy. Thank you. Marvin Nation says got the black and white version. That is so nice. But yeah, I just wanted to explain why I sort of have to promote myself so much. It's because some of you that are like really engaged and follow, you're like, hey, I've seen this a couple times, Chris. Well, awesome. Please bear with me. Lots of people just don't see it. Even though I post it, like lots of people, it gets choked and lots of people just don't see it. So you have to mention it a bunch to hopefully find some other people that see it. But I'll stop that now, and you'll just get to see my shining mug for the last few minutes. Boy, that's unflattering. Like, I don't think my hair is especially thin, but if you shine a light directly down on top of your dome, boy, does it look, as I move forward, it looks like you can just see right through it. And then I come back here and you're like, yeah, that guy's got a great hairline. I don't know. I should do polls. I feel like those pop up on my feed pretty often. Oh, I see what you're saying. Yeah. Yeah, you can do polls, but if you do a link to something, every single social media platform suppresses it to this extent. that I learned. Suppose I was on YouTube on my Comic Tropes channel and I posted a link to pros and cons instantly, like not many people see it. This is how crazy it is. Suppose I posted a link to a post on my Comic Tropes page to one of my own Comic Tropes videos. YouTube suppresses it. They just, yeah. No one is thinking about that except you. No, you don't see the comments in my videos, Gene. People are always calling me fat and balding and stupid. People definitely notice that stuff. I don't care, but they definitely talk about it all the time. Well, I think this is a good time to end the show. End it on a sad note, I always say. End it while you're talking about your personal appearance. That's my hard and fast rule for the world. No, I want to take off and get some dinner and feed my cats and work on the next episode of Comic Tropes. Tell you what, you guys have all stayed here a long time. So anyone that's staying here, I'm going to tell you what episodes I'm working on for Comic Tropes, okay? And you can take off if you don't want to hear it, but, you know, this is just the topics. I'm going to talk about an artist that I really love, Barry Windsor Smith. And I'm going to do an episode about the history of the Spider-Man musical on Broadway, which I will argue was actually pretty darn good and entertaining for what it was. As a musical, I thought it was cool. But it definitely has some weird, troubled history. It was destined for failure because behind the scenes, people did not know what they were doing, and they wasted tons of money. I look very handsome, and I got Chrissy. That's true. Hey, I'm very happy. I've got the best wife ever, and she's probably starving, waiting for me so that we can eat together. But anyway, those are a couple of things I'm working on right now. I'm super excited for that. That's a fair question, Sasquatch. That's a fun question to answer. What kind of mechanical pencil and lead do I use? Generally, I think I use usually a 2H, if I'm being honest. I probably should vary it up and sometimes use an HB and stuff like that. But the pencil I love to use is this one. It's a Pentel Graph Gear 0.5, and I love it because it's got a really nice grip, and it's a little heavy. This is actually pretty heavy, and it's weighted in just such a way that I love, love, love working with it. I love it. It's just my favorite way to draw. Every artist comes up with their favorite thing. I know I probably should be a better artist and use actual, lead pencils, or at least a lead holder or something. I don't know what to say. I like working with mechanical pencils. That's what I'm comfortable with. Yes, Barry Windsor Smith is a king, and needs to be recognized. Happy President's Day to our president of Comic Troopers. Hey, that's me. I'll give you guys a salute, a double salute. Please do a cold intro for the Spider-Man one. So I've got an idea for the Spider-Man one, and I'm going to tell you it because it's probably not going to happen. But I'll tell you my idea. I'm there in a Spider-Man suit singing. And who guesses who the masked singer is? My friend Ken Jeong, one of the hosts of The Masked Singer. Ken is a buddy, but I bet you anything he's probably not allowed to do that, but I'm going to pitch it to him. I'm going to pitch that I have Ken Jeong guess that I'm the masked singer and I'm masked as Spider-Man. That's my idea. I think it would be funny if I could edit it together well, but I bet you there's a 1% chance that he's allowed to do that. I bet he just can't, but we'll see. I'm going to ask him, okay? I'm going to ask him. You need my stunt dummy swinging in and falling off the balcony. That's also a pretty funny idea. I have not used my dummy in a while. That would be funny. So we should see. Oh yeah, get Godzilla Mendoza for Spider-Man and me as Payspot Pete. I haven't collaborated with Godzilla Mendoza in a while, and he does have a great Spider-Man costume. Those are good ideas. Fingers crossed that works out. It's super unlikely, isn't it? I mean, he's such a big star. But I can at least ask, right? I can at least ruin my friendship by asking him for a big favor that makes him uncomfortable. I hope it doesn't. I love, if you see this for any reason, Ken, I love you. I love your work. Please don't be offended. All right, guys, I'm going to take off. Thank you so much for watching. This has definitely been one of the most fun ones I've done. And please consider looking at and maybe getting one of my Vampirella covers on Indiegogo. You can look that up either under Comic Tropes or Chris Piers, and you will find it. And I am posting the link like crazy on my social media. But aside from that, just keep reading comics. Thanks, everybody. Take care.